you ready?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Weeb Club Backlog. This backlog is going to be over the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU. The first three phases. We might talk about WandaVision, but I might say we should just not, and then just keep it to the first three phases. So.
Yeah, because we've been since... when did we start, actually, doing the Marvel watch-through?
Oh my god, I have, you know what? I can find it. Let me go to my media thread, and then I will look.
I might find it first, actually, because I can check. I'm, letterboxed.
Okay, you make your point, though, and then I'll give you the date.
We started, I watched Iron Man on May 19th, so for over half a year, we've been watching through the MCU, mostly the, movies from the and then we're currently in phase 4 on the TV series, and we're about to watch the first movie today, actually.
Yeah, Black Widow tonight.
Yeah, so we've been actually doing this for a while now. We've even talked about it on the Weeb Club, but here we're just going to, do a full-on Marvel Cinematic Universe backlog on, I guess, whatever comes to mind for the first three phases. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason we're doing this somewhat is just because, we have talked about it on the Weeb Club, but I think people would like to hear some of our thoughts more condensed, especially because I think that there's some things some people say about the MCU, especially some of the movies in it where they're, I think, very dumb and call some movies bad that are very good.
But yeah, I guess for non-spoiler thoughts, we could just maybe speak generally about the MCU, and then for when we get into spoilers, we'll talk about more specific movies, perhaps.
Honestly, I kind of feel like having a non-spoiler section is unnecessary. Maybe we can just exclude talking about Endgame and Infinity War or something, but I feel like literally everything else is fine to talk about.
We could just go very general first and then go phases at a time, and then people will, when we go more specific and talk about phases, people will know if they have or haven't seen the movies in that phase. So if we start general but don't spoil anything,
Okay.
And then we just go by phases, I think that fixes the problem,
that makes
right?
Sense.
So generally, I like the MCU a lot. I think it's very good.
Yeah.
I think the average... So, again, before people might lose their minds, the average movie, right? So the mean. So, when you average things together in school is an 8. I think its average is really high. I think there's a lot of... There's as many good movies as there are, kind of not great ones to offset it. And then, most MCU movies are, really fun, really good action movies that, I go see them in the theater and always have a good time. Watch them at home, I have a good time. It's very rare that there's an MCU movie that I'm not enjoying myself during.
Yeah, looking at my list, it's movies and WandaVision, my ranking list, and it's basically, about the halfway mark, I have both the movies at an 8 out of 10 personally, so, I quite enjoy a lot of the MCU. And
I think that even the worst movies in the MCU are still perfectly serviceable movies.
Boring,
I could still
maybe,
sit
but
down
not,
and watch them.
Yeah.
And there's at least a decent-ish chance I'll prefer them over at least some certain random movies that I could find on television for free.
My dad watched this shit on TV, and there's a lot of times where I just go, based on what I'm seeing, I would not like to watch all of this at all. And usually, especially Hollywood comedies, they just look really bad.
What the fuck? There's some great Hollywood comedies.
Next Craftsdwarf's gonna say he hates Adam Sandler. What the fuck?
Yeah,
you hate Adam Sandler?
What the fuck?
I've liked a couple of movies that he was in.
Yeah, Waterboy's a classic.
I think that was one of the ones I don't like.
Oh my god, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think there are 2 movies that I would say, 3 movies probably, that I would say, like, I can think of a bunch of other movies. I would rather either ones that I haven't seen or even a movie I haven't seen. Like, there are a lot of movies. I would rather, like, rewatch, obviously, like, like Endgame, right? Or like, Ragnarok than watch, like, than watch a movie I haven't seen that's really bad. But there are, like, some movies in the MCU that, unless I'm rewatching the whole MCU, I think I will probably never watch again because I just do not think they're that enjoyable for most of it. But
yeah.
Outside of those, it's like I could see myself being in a situation where I'm with people and, not right now, obviously, because I just watched them all. But I'm with people and we feel like watching a superhero movie and I turn on, Doctor Strange or something, right? Like just something enjoyable that people can like. So,
yeah.
It's good.
But yeah, I think overall, like what I think I like about the MCU a lot is just that it's a long form story and it does the kind of things I like to see in long form stories that I usually get out of like long running manga or anime series, which isn't that common in Western media, I think. Right, where like with comic books themselves, I guess you can consider them long form fiction, but they're nowhere near as like tight as the MCU, I guess, if that makes sense. Where because the MCU has a very clear like creative vision, and I don't know. I'll just someone there actually like, has some care about storytelling. Like I remember hearing about how executives wanted the ending to Civil War changed, and the Russo brothers were about to fucking walk out of the movie, and I think Kevin Feige went and talked to them and managed to get it worked out. So like. Like yeah, so maybe it's just like the Russo brothers, like at least maybe Kevin Feige doesn't care about storytelling, but he recognized that the Russo brothers were skilled and a good fit for the MCU, and that if they're leaving then something's wrong. I don't know exactly the details, but I do think that there's like there's a cohesion there, and there's like the way the story like like not just the references but even just how like certain elements like work together, like the fact that like phase 1 just sort of serves as such, and especially like Iron Man and Captain America just serve as this great backbone for the first 3 phases. Like it's just it's really cool stuff, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I really do appreciate how everything builds into the next film or the next phase, because like when you were saying how it's one of the few Western examples of long form storytelling that you can think of that's kind of like manga, I was trying to think of like other stuff that's long running, and I was like thinking of like, I don't know, this might be a weird example, but I was thinking of like Adventure Time, but it's like even with long running stuff like that, I feel like there's a difference in how they kind of structure their series, because it's like I think Adventure Time tends to like kind of take breaks in terms of like building towards its next story focused thing, like its story focused
like it'll have
important
its season,
things,
and there'll be episodes that are like building to things, and then there'll just be episodes that are just like doing something cool or fun or something
like I
Um,
think there's a lot of breaking up the tension more often in Western things, and kind of like like it does have to keep in that ability to just kind of jump in and watch some episodes, but not have to really watch the entire thing. And the MCU does try to kind of do that as well, in a sense, because it kind of has to, but it is like a little is different, I would say.
Right, like if someone just walked into Shang-Chi and that was their first Marvel movie, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. Like there are connections that you're not going to like fully grasp, but overall, like the main arc of the movie, I think is perfectly enjoyable, as long as you recognize that it is part of a bigger thing, and you're not going to necessarily know the whole universe or what's going on if you haven't watched everything else that comes before, right? Or like, because I definitely understand the drive to watch things in order, and we've been talking about that as it's been coming out, we've been watching it, and it is coming out. But also, like, I do think like within reason, like, you don't have to 100% watch it in order. Like, I don't think it's the end of the world if you watch Spider-Man Homecoming before fucking Black Panther or something like that, because they're not connected. But, if you watched, but you should have watched them all before, like, Infinity War.
Yeah, and the problem is there are some movies where having seen other ones almost matter more, weirdly, like Civil War. It's best to have watched Civil War before you watch, a lot of other or some of the other Phase 3 movies, right? And then you have
like
to
you
see.
can get away with like Doctor Strange, but not Spider-Man or Black Panther, right?
With Civil War, fucking Captain America's a fucking war criminal, so it's kind of important you see that before like you just jump into something where he's just fucking gone.
Right? Yeah, because if I had been like, well, I'll watch Civil War later, and then you watch Spider-Man first, you're gonna be spoiled on Civil War, and you'll miss Black Panther's real introduction when you go to watch Black Panther.
No, my parents actually did watch Spider-Man Homecoming because they saw, oh look, new Spider-Man movie, but they hadn't watched Civil War. I don't even think they'd watched Age of Ultron, but I think they had watched like Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if they'd watched Captain America: Winter Soldier. So like they were kind of lost for parts of it because they didn't get that, or like they wouldn't have known like what's up Tony been up to after Age of Ultron. What's
the entire fucking first scene? Like they wouldn't know what that is.
Exactly like that. So they didn't really vibe with the movie because they hadn't seen enough of the prior stuff. But yeah, so like, I guess I just wanted to establish that like I'm not super like, about like because I guess like none you've been talking about how you really do want to watch it in order. But it's not the end of the world as it depending on the movie, I guess, is what I wanted to bring up. And hopefully that because like going forward we are going to have to watch things out of order because we're not going to like watch all the or like we're not going to be able to stream a movie that's in theaters and watch that together until it comes to Disney Plus or is otherwise available online. But there's no reason to wait for the Disney Plus series unless they're directly connected to the movie, which probably isn't going to happen. So but yeah, anyway.
I also think about the MCU like with the long form thing is like obviously comic books are another long form storytelling medium that I'm sure is very similar to manga, right? The problem is, I think, we've talked about it before, how it's not super easy for us to really get into, manga, right? Or comics, I mean. Like, there's a lot to read, and it's hard to find time to read them all and stuff. And I think that's part of what, the MCU does, is it gives you all these characters, and it shows me comic characters that I probably would have never known anything about, right? Like, especially now in, like, Phase 4. With, like, Shang-Chi, it's like, I have no idea who this guy was.
No, yeah, like...
So I'm starting to learn about this superhero, and, like, it brought a lot of heroes I think most people who didn't know comic books did not know about or care about into the public consciousness, which is super
still
cool.
Fucking insane to me that, like, Iron Man was a B-list superhero. Like, what?
Yeah, because now he's one of the biggest...
Right. Or even just how, like, Guardians or, like, literally who's, like, yeah, Shang-Chi, to a lesser extent, I think Black Panther and Doctor Strange weren't as, like, mainstream aware until their movies. And Eternals is another one who it's like, who the fuck are these guys? And now,
I still don't know who they are.
Yeah, I know, because you haven't seen the movie, but, and they're not, it's, the movie's not being very well received, so, it's not, like, exactly like Guardians Lightning in the Bottle again, which I didn't expect. But, here's these less known heroes getting a big theatrical debut, which is still pretty neat. And what other debuts do we have this phase? I think it's mostly just like Fantastic Four,
the Eternals. Let me look up Marvel phase. Well, no, there's a bunch because of the TV shows.
I was mostly thinking about the movies because I know if you count the TV shows, there's like Miss Marvel and SheHulk and Moon Knight airing next year.
Yeah. Some crazy stuff. So okay, hold on. It's hard to find an accurate Phase 4 timeline because it keeps changing. Yeah. So I mean, we'll get debuts in the sense of like people will change. So for example, like we'll get the new Black Panther in the Black Panther sequel.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of like what aside after Eternals, like aside from Fantastic Four, like what other new names do we have in the titles of the movies?
Are we only talking about titles of movies, or are we talking about villains as well?
Well, I mean, obviously there's going to be new characters in each movie no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, but I was just more thinking of like what new MCU like Avenger characters are getting like mainline introductions.
I think the
movies,
big Avenger that got a movie is Shang-Chi for this one. Because obviously the Fantastic Four aren't Avengers, right? They're the Fantastic Four.
Right. And well, the Eternals are the Eternals, yeah. So I was just more thinking of Marvel hero characters is what I was thinking. But
yeah,
okay.
I don't know if there's any other ones. There's a bunch in the TV shows that I'm sure are going to be Avengers, but yeah.
But yeah, no, it'll be cool to see how Phase 4 develops. But I guess we should move on.
can't
to
wait
one,
for
or do we
fucking-
have any
There's
more
another
general
huge
thoughts?
one actually that's getting his movie debut. Not in the movie, but fucking Deadpool is gonna be in Spider-Man most likely. That's a huge one.
Oh, I didn't. That's just news to me. I'm
Well-
kind of sick of hearing about Spider-Man movie spoilers, but you know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had already talked about that. I thought we talked about that a while ago because of
Did you say Deadpool? Did you mean Daredevil?
Daredevil. Sorry, that's what I meant. I meant
You
Daredevil.
said Deadpool.
No, I meant Daredevil. That's my bad then. I was so confused. I was like, we fucking talked about this. But no, yeah, Daredevil. I have no idea if Deadpool is going to be in anything. No, Daredevil's going to be in fucking Spider-Man.
Yeah,
So-
I knew that actually. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say,
But,
I know we fucking talked about this. You can't act like I spoiled it for you when we've literally had a conversation about how he's going to be in the movie already. But that makes sense. I just said the wrong thing and got confused.
Well, like if you'd said a fucking like DC superhero that started with the D, I would have just called you fucking stupid. But like
Right.
you're saying another Marvel character who could actually show up in the MCU, and that's like there was the like a tweet that had like a short video. It was like Deadpool and Korg from Thor
Yeah.
Ragnarok reacting to the Free Guy trailer, and they were joking about like, oh, how do you get into the MCU? Like, you know, because because that's Deadpool. He's gonna make the meta jokes. So like, you know, he's probably gonna show up in the MCU somehow. It's just a matter of like where and when. So yeah, I was just like, wait, fucking Spider-Man? Okay, that's news to me. But anyway,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Sad.
it's kind of interesting to see, you know, how they're adapting certain heroes and stuff, or even changing them. Like Spider-Man is different in ways to fit the MCU, which I think is really cool how that worked out.
I'm pretty
Some
sure
people aren't
Shang-Chi
a
as
fan
a
of it.
character got like a complete overhaul.
In some ways, I definitely even another more minor character I know is Wong from Doctor Strange, who he's like in the comics he's just kind of like a manservant, and they kind of went like, you know, I don't think we want our white protagonist to have like an Asian manservant, so they made him more comedic, and they almost removed the character entirely. And I think Wong is actually really cool and good, but you know, so and yeah, especially when you talk about Shang-Chi, it's also kind of, I guess they're like almost doing like cultural like revisions of, you know, dated things from the you know, Marvel comics, which you know maybe didn't age super well, so you know, which I think is not bad, you know, at least, but yeah.
I really want like She-Hulk to finally, like, you know, I know the TV series is a thing, but like I want her to get a movie so that it could be the excuse for fucking Hulk to also share part of that movie and kind of have a fucking another movie that isn't the original Hulk, that's with the actual fucking current Bruce Banner.
If we would get a even if we get a fucking like, I don't know. Well, I guess I probably shouldn't say too much. I don't know how much more we'll get of like Bruce Banner as the Hulk in the MCU. I think at least for a while.
Yeah. In fact, She-Hulk might be their way to keep Hulk stuff going without using Bruce, basically. But we'll
Even though Bruce, I think, will still be in it for sure.
Yeah, no,
but...
right. Yeah,
You know what I'm
not
talking
that-
about.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, like you said, not as important as he has been. But anyway,
Yeah.
what are some general like complaints about the MCU that we disagree with?
Uh,
Because I mean, obviously, I don't think they're the same movie, and especially once you get into Phase 3, they're, you know, able to be fairly varied. Like, obviously, it's still within the genre of superhero movies, but they do, like, you know, like Ant-Man does have like heist movie elements, and Spider-Man is like also a high school comedy kind of thing, right? Like, you know, they're not, you know, so they're still within the realm of superhero stuff, but they're, I think, you know, things are fairly varied.
yeah.
You know, I think antagonists are overall good, even if, you know, maybe a few too many times that there's just antagonists who I don't think are very good outside of like what they offer to like the conflict. But there are still a bunch of antagonists I think are really, like, especially like we were talking about how like the first Avengers and then Infinity War and Endgame like sort of instantly hit like iconic status in certain ways with just the way that they reached like the cultural like osmosed into cultural like understanding, I guess, like you know, I still see Thanos memes like daily.
I think well, people complain about the comedy a lot, but it's hard to, I guess, really say, you know, oh, everyone's fucking dog shit stupid for this, because at the end of the day, right, like,
if you don't like the humor, then you don't like the
Yeah.
humor, right? But I do think, at least, especially, I don't know. I feel like at a certain point, it's definitely used in like meaningful ways. I think so. Even if you don't like the comedy, it like usually fits what they're going for. Like Ant-Man and how he is just a more comedic character in general, and they work that into like Endgame,
yeah,
and just or even just the structure. I think is which I guess another thing I do like about the MCU is how it like as a long form story, it still has this really good like structure to it. Like you can kind of see how like Avengers is like at the end of Act 1. And then Ultron and Civil War are sort of like the low point of the whole thing, and then but then even within Phase 3, you have like Infinity War as the low point of just Phase 3, and then you have Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel as sort of the going recovery from the low points before the actual finale and Endgame. Like just good structural things like that. I appreciate seeing in long form stories, and how like the whole follows an act structure instead of even, and of course all the individual movies do as well, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I also think, and I think there is a level of with people complaining about the comedy where it's more so like they know that nobody can really, not that like, oh, it's a valid argument, but I think they know that because of how comedy is, nobody can really like give them shit for that. And because I think there are a lot of people that want to dislike the MCU because of just how insanely popular it is. And then there's like the stuff, right, that like fucking like people who like side with like Martin Scorsese, right, where it's like they're not real movies, or people who look down on it inherently because it's just superhero movies is like really common.
Right, the kind of classist high art versus low art bullshit that I hate.
Yeah, and so I think that there's like a certain level of that like exists, where people just kind of dislike the MCU because it's the most popular movie franchise right now,
or because it's popular, like they felt like they should have some context on it and didn't like it and want that validated, so that kind of thing.
No, Craftsdwarf, it's good, and anyone who actually watches it will like it. Stop giving people a way out for being cringers.
All right.
I mean, we can go phase by phase, but Nun, what do you think? Do you have anything else?
No, we can start going phase by phase.
All right. So first is Iron Man 1.
Which I think is that movie blew up for a reason. Like, it's not, it's literally like around the half mark for like my ranking of MCU stuff. So it's still in the top half, but barely. But like, it's still a really good start to the MCU. Like even just the first scene and how it just like the way it like gets into the right before the flashback, like it's just so, I don't know. It's just it was just a well-made movie, and yeah, it did propel Iron Man into being like from a B-list to I'd call him an S, maybe not like double S like Batman or Superman, but he's still like up there, right? Like Iron Man's kind of a big deal, and it's just a solid movie.
Yeah, I think it's good. I like that because it's not every series does the like the origin story, right? There are some characters where it just like Spider-Man just doesn't get one, which I think is good. But I do think that like I like Iron Man's. I think the movie handles it really well. The movie, going back to it now, it's funny. It's surprisingly more of like a 2000s movie than I remember. Like there are things that the movie does and like has is just like a part of how the movie like is to watch, where it's like literally just like a fucking mid 2000s movie, which it is. I mean, it's from 2008, but I forgot that because I hadn't seen it since probably around when it came out. Yeah. And I think that makes it really funny to watch because then you get to watch the MCU movies become more like what you would consider like a contemporary movie, like blockbuster. Which I mean,
because especially which I think they had some part in creating, by virtue of being so popular.
Yeah, definitely.
But no, Iron Man's really solid, and good for establishing stuff for Tony's character, and yeah.
None. Do you want to talk about the next movie?
Your favorite?
Oh wait, fuck no, never mind. I forgot what the next one was. I thought the next one was a good movie. Well, you can still talk about the next one.
It's Hulk, right?
Yeah.
Fucking the Hulk, fucking, it's really fucking. It's sad that like that movie's kind of retroactively made worse by having a new Bruce Banner with a lot more charisma and a lot of personality. So when I just think back on that Hulk, it's just like, it just makes it even more boring.
No, yeah, like, see, part of me wonders if there's a good movie in there somewhere, but I just get so bored watching the movie that that part of my brain just kind of shuts down. And and I do like the Hulk a lot. Like, I think I've said he's my favorite superhero. This movie is not why.
It's just like boring, yeah.
And it's also, I would say, the most skippable Marvel movie, just because like the way they introduce Hulk in Avengers, like, you don't need any other Hulk media, even, like, because he's basically a new Hulk in Avengers anyway. Like, if he feels like a different Hulk entirely. The actual MCU connections are like Ross shows up again, although I guess Abomination has both shown up and he's going to show up in She-Hulk, so maybe there will be more connectivity later down the line, but so far there really hasn't been that much. Even the way that Tony shows up in the movie doesn't even really fit with Iron Man 2 necessarily.
Right.
Like, so it's like, so not only is it like not very good, it just doesn't really fit the MCU. And you were even pointing out, I think, Vindy, how like even tonally and just the way the movie like feels just doesn't feel very MCU, because it kind of hadn't like solidified like the tone they were going for yet, which I feel like is much more indicated in Iron Man and Iron Man 2 especially.
Yeah, and it's not just, before anyone says, oh, well, it doesn't have the MCU feel because it wasn't made by like Marvel. Yeah, by Marvel Studios. Neither were the Spider-Man movies. Well, they actually might be made by Marvel and then just distributed. I don't know. But like Sony has a hand in that pie, and they still feel like MCU movies, right?
Yeah, because Universal has their hand in the Hulk pie, which, as I understand it, the reason that they can't... I maybe because there was going to be a Planet Hulk movie, but I think part of the reason that they haven't done another Hulk movie is because Universal still owns the distribution rights.
And they don't want to do another Spider-Man scenario.
Exactly, something to that effect. So I mean, or they could. That's why Disney can still do TV series or the Disney Plus series, but they can't do movies because Universal has part of those rights still, because they did the 2003 Hulk and their logo also shows up in the 2008 Hulk. So yeah. Unfortunate, which we could have gotten a Planet Hulk movie in phase 3 maybe, but we didn't.
I remember it being planned. Yeah, that's, I think, something people forget about the phases. There have been so many movies I remember for like phase 3 and stuff that were planned that just get scrapped before they come out. Same with like phase 4, like early phase 4, what we were gonna get, and like the order to what it is now were very different. So things like that change all the fucking time.
Something funny I want to bring up, because like actually hysterical, slight spoiler but not really, in the What If Marvel series, when they showed the events of the Hulk movie, like the fucking, they basically just literally had the current Bruce in that movie, and he was acting all funny like how he does in the other movies, so it's just like a completely different personality. It's very funny.
Yeah, so they're just going back to acting as if
they were acting like it was that Bruce the whole time.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I also, something I will say I respect about the Hulk movie is it does the same thing that Spider-Man does, where I think everybody knows, even if people don't know, exactly, oh, it's gamma radiation and all this other shit. People know what the Hulk is, right? People understand the Hulk's powers.
Yeah, between like the old live action series with Lou Ferrigno and the 2003 movie, which the 2008 movie is very much kind of like, it's not a direct sequel, but it's like a spiritual sequel.
Yeah,
right? Where the way because
they're both boring as shit.
The 2003 Hulk one is better. Shut up. But anyway, no, because the 2008 movie starts where the 2003 one left off, basically. So they're very much like recognizing that that movie's going to be in people's minds, so they made a connection, even though there isn't, like, that 2003 Hulk isn't part of the MCU yet. I don't know. They're already incorporating other stuff like like Venom. So who knows?
Ben
what
Affleck
can happen.
Fucking Daredevil win.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, I guess Iron Man 2 is really where I feel like, I think you were the one who was pointing out, Vindy, but like it's really where the MCU starts, because it's where you start getting all the connections and later stuff.
And it has the whole like hints at Ross's big week, right? Or not Ross's, sorry, Coulson's big week.
Shield, where they had to deal with the Hulk, Iron Man, and the Livewire Whiplash or whatever the fuck his name was, and then Thor all in the same week.
Yeah, it's great. I actually fucking like that like whole little thing a lot. Yeah, I mean, the movie feels like Avengers .5, right? Nick Fury and Black Widow take a very large role in it, and they're super integral to like the way it plays out. And that movie also is very much about like kind of them deciding to found the Avengers before the first movie, where they need to get everyone together. So
yeah, it ends with Thor's hammer. There's a nod to Captain America's shield, which those are both in the next Phase 1 movies. So it's like, yeah, it's very much like, hey, the Avengers is 100% going to become a thing, so let's work towards that. And, you know, which is also a good idea. Like, you know, it makes sense for, you know, Iron Man was the first success in the MCU, so it makes sense to kind of use him as, because, like, you know, even, like, you know, with Iron Man 2 being the closest thing to an Avengers movie that is an Avengers movie, except for, like, Civil War, which he's also important with, even though it's a Captain America movie, like, you know, it's very much kind of like, you know, he's the face of the MCU, pretty much, right? And so, but yeah, and even Iron Man 2, you know, it's good on its own, too, right? It's a sequel to Iron Man.
better than the first movie.
True.
Yeah, I like it a lot. One thing I like about Iron Man 2, that's a small thing, is I like that it's two villains, because I think it works that, like, you have two guys who are both trying to be Tony Stark, but neither one of them has, like, the full suite, right? Like, one of them is, you know, the businessman, public figure, and then one of them's, like, the great, like, you know, inventor. But neither of them are one person, nor as good at either of the things that they're like specializing in.
And they can't work together either, right? Yeah, like they're not at the, because Vanko betrays Hammer, and you know, they're not allies whatsoever, so they can't surpass Tony.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like it a lot. I also like that some of the, like, I feel like this movie it does an interesting thing with the idea of Iron Man being like the first superhero that's, like, I guess a part of the public consciousness, and is around at that point in the MCU. Where, like, yeah, like, the villains aren't, like, already... It's not like the villains are really strong and Tony has to surpass them. The villains are trying the entire movie to surpass Tony, right? So that's, like, an interesting other thing where the villains are trying everything they can to... From the start, they're worse, and they never actually get better. The only thing that's stopping them is Tony has to deal with his issues, and then he can still just deal with them. And I like that difference where it's not like, oh, our hero has to become stronger to surpass... The villains, like, the villains are trying to surpass the hero, and they actually just can't. It's really cool.
You actually reminded me of how, like, I guess a complaint that sometimes gets thrown around in general with any comic book adaptation, and that it's not like the comics. And so if you're not aware, in the comic books, Tony Stark is not publicly out as Iron Man. In fact, Iron Man is known as Tony Stark's bodyguard. But I remember what people liked about for the first Iron Man is because it ends, he just goes, I am Iron Man. And, like, especially after, like, you know, because the Raimi trilogy was also a pretty big deal. And it's really good, but, you know, this super secret identity thing is a whole part of that conflict. And Iron Man just kind of throws that out right away at the end. And which does differentiate, you know, which I think is a good change from the comics. Like, not because, like, it's better than the comics, I'm not going to say that, but I think it works really well for the MCU. It works for Tony Stark's personality. And it, you know, it works. I like how it, you know, like, especially in Iron Man 3, like, you know, and Iron Man 2, like, the fact that he's known as Iron Man is, like, important and good.
Yeah, I like that only Spider-Man, I'm pretty sure, is the only hero so far where the fact that he has a secret identity has been, like, a major part of the conflict in the movies, right?
Yeah, no, because I'm trying to think of, like, literally any other, like, Ant-Man is known, like... I can't think of another hero I mean...
no, I don't think there is one. I think everyone else either doesn't have, like, another identity. It's like Captain America, where everyone knows Steve Rogers is Captain America. Or there's someone who, like, revels almost in me. Like, it's like Doctor Strange, right? Where he's Dr. Stephen Strange. He doesn't hide who he is. You know,
but he's also, like, kind of secret and underground in the first place, right? Like, it's not even about a secret identity. Like, Doctor Strange just isn't a publicly, like, known superhero in the first place,
right?
Pretty much.
That's actually cool. I didn't even think about that. How, like, the MCU kind of mostly just did away with secret identities.
And it also just kind of does away, like, it doesn't, like, with the nicknames and stuff sometimes. Like, in Spider-Man Homecoming, there's a whole point where, like, I am the Shocker, haha, and the Vulture, and he gets killed. But, like, I just called him the Vulture, but a lot of the character, like even in Iron Man, he's not Ironmonger. He's just Obadiah Stane, right? Like,
Yeah.
we he's only called by his like actual name, and he doesn't really have a secret identity or a superhero name, right? And that's kind of the case in a lot of the other Marvel movies where they don't really have superhero names, or they're not called by them necessarily a lot, even if they do. But what were you gonna say, Nun? Sorry.
I can think of like two people who kind of have a secret identity. Black Widow, like, you know, she still fucking goes about in the world not as Black Widow or anything, and I'm sure she doesn't get recognized, and like, you know, she is always in disguise or whatever.
Well, the difference is
I don't think working for
I don't
Tony
think people
Stark
would recognize Black Widow as someone either, right? I think you could just say that everything about her is a secret, not that she has like a secret
I was kind of
identity.
putting her in the same column as Doctor Strange, where they're just unknown in general, though for different reasons.
Yeah. And I guess the other example I could think of was kind of Hulk, just because only military people really know Bruce Banner is the Hulk. Which, not that it matters or it's like Spider-Man, because it's not, but it's like probably the closest to.
Well, I mainly just meant it's used as a conflict in their stories, which Spider-Man is the only one who like the idea of having a secret identity is actually like a conflict.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So if that's all for Iron Man 2, next is fucking Thor.
Or
your
like,
favorite.
Well, it's not Snore the Dark World, but it is kind of bore.
It's fucking
Watching it feels like a chore.
In Dark World.
Biggest problem I have with Thor is that the cameraman was fucking drunk while filming it. Oh my fucking god.
You'd think the movie would, like it's got so many Dutch angles. It's surprised it's an American production.
Yeah. You can't fucking see shit. More of the movie is fucking like tilted than not.
Yeah, and even aside from that, like, I think Thor probably has
just
the worst.
Tilt your head, idiot!
Like,
holy shit, it's easy.
But yeah, especially, I mean, mostly counting the first two Thor movies, Thor has like the worst supporting cast of maybe all the Marvel, many of the Marvel characters at least.
I like Darcy.
Aside from Hulk, because like who the fuck cares about the fucking
Hulk is
doctor?
Like, no, he doesn't have anyone.
That?
He doesn't have a supporting cast, but I mean, I don't like Darcy.
No.
I mean, she had at least one funny joke, but it was in WandaVision, so.
Yeah, I was mainly just saying I like her in WandaVision.
But then she's not good as a Thor supporting character, is she?
Well, that's a good point. You got me there.
And yeah, like I was thinking about Jane and Thor's relationship, and I think what's weird about it to me is that Thor like legitimately loves and respects Jane, like he likes her passion and he respects her intelligence. Jane seems to only like Thor because he's hot.
Yeah, he
like
is.
In Thor: The Dark World, where she's like about to get mad at him and she sees him and she kind of goes like, "God, you're hot," and forgives him immediately. I'm like, I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, like it feels
Thor
like her
isn't
going
the shallow one in the relationship.
Yeah, it feels like her going to Asgard isn't as much of a moment where she really learns to understand and truly love Thor as it should be. And I know that why, because like there were, I guess, scheduling conflicts. But then it's like after that, she just breaks up with him going into the next movie. It's like, all right.
Yeah, no, like I, honestly, like yeah, I don't dislike Jane on her own, but like when I think about her relationship with Thor, I just don't like it at all, and I am kind of worried for Love and Thunder because, I don't know. It's like, can it make this aspect of Thor good? I don't know. Let's hope so, because it hasn't been good so far. But see, probably the one thing that saves Thor from being like actual bottom Marvel movie territory is Loki, because Loki's really good. In general,
I have it at bottom Marvel movie. I think
it's like bottom 5 for me.
I have a bottom 3.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I really don't like the first 2 Thor movies. I think they're boring.
How can Dark World be boring when Loki's dick swinging? Doesn't even make any sense what you're saying right now.
Snore the Dork World. No, it's fucking boring. Thor 1's boring too. The best thing I think Thor 1 does is actually introduce Loki for Avengers. And get Loki set up to be like, the villain he is in Avengers is super good. And that's like most of it.
Anyway, Captain America.
Yes. Good movie.
Yeah, Steve's really good. yeah, that's mostly what I like about
None.
Captain America.
I think you like Captain America the most, so fucking talk
At
about
least
it.
the character.
What the fuck?
Go.
I mean, I really like Captain America, the movie, because, like, I don't know, I feel like in some ways it's a very refreshing movie, at least compared to what came out so far, because, like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's, like, I feel like it has a little less of of the same, well, not this, see, I don't want to, like, it has less of a, superhero movie vibe for parts of it, I almost just feel like it's kind of like just kind of a movie in some ways. I don't know if that makes sense, but I don't know. I think it's really good. See, like, this is like, I do like Captain America a lot, but it's not like I loved Captain America like from the first movie yet. Like, you know, I still liked him, but like at this point, I still liked Tony more. So.
Mm-hmm. No, because I definitely think, like, Captain America probably has, like, the strongest, like, I mean, like, maybe Thor probably has the biggest jump between different movies, but I think, like, Captain America still has, like, the strongest trilogy overall.
Oh, definitely.
Because, and that's less because of the first movie and more because of the second two, which are, like, top MCU. Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess if we're done with Captain America, or are we?
Yeah, the only thing I could say other than
I don't want to
like
dwell
the movie
too
is,
long.
yeah, I
on
agree.
them, we have
I think
20 more things to discuss.
Captain America is interesting because it's like a war movie. I think it's fun. I like Steve. I like the introduction to his conflict. And then I love the way the movie basically leads directly into Avengers 1 as well, actually.
Oh yeah, no, the stuff with him like waking up, like, you know, waking up in the modern time and recognizing the like, hey, I was there for that game on the radio, like, you can't fucking fool me. And the, you know, and just like seeing the modern world. Oh god, I had a date, like, good.
Yes.
And then so yeah, after that was the Avengers. Which is still really fucking good.
Fucking movie. I think that both Infinity War and Avengers 1 both, I personally think that there are movies that culturally are as important as like a lot of the other movies that people talk about a lot, right? Like the first Star Wars movie, or Jaws, or like Titanic, right? Shit like that. I think that's how culturally impactful
I was even
the
thinking
first
about
Avengers
how, like,
movie is.
Right, because yeah, like we like think, if you think about just this last like 15 years of film, we had another Star Wars trilogy. No one cared about it, aside from it being like really like people watched it for sure, but you know, and it has its defenders, but overall it's just like a thing that happened. We got more Jurassic Park movies. We got, like, you know, we're still getting these franchises, and you know, I do think, but like the MCU was a game changer, and it, like, you know, a lot of other franchises tried their expanding universes because like what the MCU did was so like hadn't really, like, you had franchises, film franchises and stuff, but I don't think you had anything like the MCU, which was this big and this connected and expand, like, and you know, and the Avengers being like this big crossover between, you know, these characters who we'd known, like, because, you know, none of them first, except for the Hulk, who, like, we you know, as a character he hadn't showed up before, but this version was basically new. But like, you know, we saw Hawkeye and Thor, Black Widow and Iron Man, and everyone else had gotten their own movies, and so here's this big crossover of these mainline Avengers meeting up to fight, and it's just a really cool movie, and it's super fun.
Yeah, I think the movie does it. Sorry, none, you go.
Oh, okay. I honestly think it wouldn't even be a stretch to say the MCU redefined the superhero genre of movies. Like, in spite of there being like plenty of superhero stuff before, you know, the MCU, I think the MCU is too important in terms of like its reach and how it's like made itself as big as it is to not say it hasn't redefined the superhero genre and like changed how like literally every superhero movie now is being made compared to other things that came
and I
before.
think that's like demonstrable because like when I think about superhero movies being made, they're either they're Marvel properties that Sony wants to put into the MCU, like Venom and Morbius, and or they're it's DC, like, who have been trying their own, you know, the DC expanded universe or extended universe, I forget one, and you know, which has its problems but has actually had good movies come out of it as well. right? But
we love a Snyder cut.
so it's kind of hard to not say that they changed superhero movies when I'm struggling to think of a superhero movie that came out that like X-Men was more like where it's just a series of movies that's but I guess Deadpool still but it wasn't a big like X-Men universe in the same way they have the DC and now they're just in part of the MCU now, or they're going to and Marvel has the rights, so but anyway.
Right.
But no, yeah, Avengers was a big deal. It was cool, like just seeing like the gradual like build up and like when they're on the plane and you hear the thunder and like oh fuck, Thor's coming, like just that kind of like.
I think the movie does a really good job of introducing all of the heroes and then like giving them all enough screen time to where you feel like they all matter, and then like and that's so cool because like. The way that Avengers is as a movie, I actually don't think you could have done an Avengers movie without having to give some of them stuff before, right? Like, imagine trying to do just start with Avengers, and you have to introduce. I mean, we can agree that you probably don't have to introduce Hulk. Hawkeye, you really don't have to introduce as a character, right? He shoot bow. And then
I think most honestly, less for the heroes. I think like Loki is the character who probably needed the most before Avengers because he's the antagonist. And maybe you could have worked around that, but he's as important as Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor in that regard as to having prior context before the movie. Because Captain America, his origin story isn't as known in the same way that like Spider-Man's is. So he definitely needs his origin movie.
So did Iron Man as well, yeah. So it
Iron
definitely
Man,
is a thing where it's like, the Avengers works because, in large part, because it had these solo movies before it. But then even outside of that, I do
think if you watch just Avengers, and I think you can enjoy it because it does a good enough job of setting up the characters, even if you maybe would be 100% would be missing stuff. But I think it's still like a fun movie. But yeah, and of course with the context, it just like the way, like especially like the conversation where Steve and Tony are arguing, and Tony can never make the sacrifice play, and Steve everything good that about him came out of a bottle, which was very much like against the point of both of their origin movies, and continues to occur throughout like every Avengers movie pretty much, if like it's just this really good like linchpin to like it's a good capstone to what came before, but it builds up into what came after really well.
And everyone talks about, and when we watched Avengers and we got to that line where he says
people were just like jumping
right to Endgame, and it's like, no, like they're proven wrong saying that inside the movie. Stop thinking just about like all the way to Endgame. Not just this
movie, but literally their origin movie. The whole reason Steve became Captain America was because of the person he was, and at the end of in the climax, Tony told Pepper to blow up the thing and made the sacrifice play to stop Stain because his suit wasn't cutting it. So like it's literally right there in their origin movies, and not just this movie or Endgame.
Right.
So yeah.
So yeah, Avengers good, very good. Probably one of the most important movies of the 2010s, I think we could say now that decade's over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Next, Iron Man 3, the best one. I'm not wrong. Not the best MCU movie, but the best, because now we're in phase 2, by the way.
Yeah.
The best Iron Man movie, I think.
Movie. Yeah, I mean, I also agree. I think how it used the events of Avengers was super great.
Yeah.
Just having like Tony's whole entire deal be that he has PTSD from the Avengers, and that's just a kind of a big thing in general with Tony's character in other movies. Like they always have the events of Avengers be the next big thing that sets the course of his character. Like we see that in Civil War as well later on. Yeah. And I also just really like how a lot of the things the movie does in terms of like, in Iron Man 3, Tony relies less on his suit and even has like a whole part where he's like not in his suit at all and just like, when he's like going through that fucking
with the fucking Home Depot arsenal.
Yes.
Right. That was really cool.
I also like how the climax of the movie has him destroying all of his suits. because it's like it is the man inside of the suit that's the important thing,
right?
And
also
Tony really shows that.
And another thing I really appreciate is how this is in regard to like how the MCU treats its long form storytelling, and how I think in every movie after this, except maybe Homecoming, because he's not doing as much superheroing in that movie. Tony is very like they are sure to give Tony stuff to do in action scenes outside of his suit. Like in Ultron, there's a part where he literally just like walks outside of his suit and goes to do some like hacking or something. Or in Civil War, he gets attacked and he only has his glove. So like they very much like follow up the ideas of Tony learning to that the man in the suit is what matters, and then they follow up that in other movies and just casually just have him still holding on to the lesson from that movie, even though it's not a big deal. And it's a small detail, but I still think that kind of thing is really cool. With how it keeps intact what his character arc was, even though that his trilogy was done with, basically.
And one thing I like about Iron Man 3 is I think the way that it leads Tony's character arc from Avengers into Age of Ultron and then into Civil War is like super good. Because I think it's really interesting when you watch how Tony and Cap's perspectives leading into Civil War actually end up with them taking the opposite of the side they would have at the start of the MCU. And I think that some of that, I mean, obviously it starts at the beginning, but I think, there's a lot of good push towards that with Iron Man 3 in the way that I think the movie builds off Avengers and into Ultron. And it's really good, and I like it a lot.
I also think Tony and Pepper's good. Pepper's hot. That is all.
Next is...
She's very hot in Iron Man 3.
That's true.
Fuck you.
Next is Snore the fucking Dork World.
Yeah, this is still my least favorite Marvel movie. And, like, look, Loki is what saves it from being a 3 out of 10. I'm sorry.
Fucking Loki alone makes it better than fucking Hulk.
I like it more than Hulk.
Hopped up on that Hulk shit.
I understand. My problem is that I just have I don't really have any problems with Hulk aside from that's fucking boring. There's a lot about Thor the Dark World that actually, like, aggravates me. I hate how they handle Selvig's character. Malekith is actually just the worst antagonist in the entire MCU. Motherfucker has negative charisma in a bad way. Like, fucking Hammer is more charismatic, and that is like an accomplishment.
He lost to Thor's mom.
I've been also making the recurring joke that Malekith is like he's the only MCU villain who can lose to the protagonist's mom, and he literally needs backup to defeat Thor's mom. He literally gets his ass beat by Thor's mom, and we're like, this is the threatening villain in the movie, and where he's just like, can't even beat Thor's fucking old ass mother. I'm sorry, Malekith is a joke. He sucks in Thor: The Dark World. Like, holy shit. God, it's the funniest thing ever. I was fucking dying. It's so funny.
Yeah, it is not good, except for Loki. But
I guess
Loki's great.
Loki's great, and I do think like the conflict in general is just like it's there. It's just handled like way better in a more interesting way in Thor Ragnarok. So it's like, the movie just kind of exists, and like if it wasn't for the stuff with Thor and his mom, which comes back in a really great way in a later movie, I'd almost say it's completely skippable. But it's kind of not. And,
yeah, because you need it for in-game, and you just need it for Infinity Stone.
You need it for Loki.
That's true. You also need it for Loki.
And I would even say, Thor, and obviously Thor Ragnarok too, with just Thor and Loki's relationship in general. I think, see, that's almost another problem where at least with Hulk, it's boring, but it's virtually skippable. Thor: The Dark World isn't skippable. But it sucks. So it's like, well, fuck. So obviously neither of those were a problem for us because we had to watch them all anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about it now. And it makes me
now
more
that
frustrated
after watching them all, now I could see myself honestly skipping them if I watch the MCU again. Just like, don't feel like watching, Thor or Thor: The Dark World. Like, I'm good. Don't need to see him again.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just watch Thor Ragnarok 3 times. That's okay. All right. Next is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
This is one of my favorite MCU movies.
It's one of mine too. Well, it's actually not. I like it a lot, but it's ranked 6 for me. So You go.
It's
I
ranked
don't
4 for
remember
me.
what my
but,
ranking was.
I'll post your ranking for you because I just saw it. I scrolled up to find mine. Crafts, talk about this movie that you like.
So like I think, you know, aside from just Steve feeling really good at it, it's like the conflict it explores is one that I just, you know, I just really tend like in stories, and it, you know, matters to me a lot, I guess. Like especially like fucking when Cap gives his speech at the end and people are like motivated to just do the right thing even though, like, you know, they're considering what they're up against, like, you know, the captain's orders, and it's like it's so fucking good. Holy shit. Every fucking time it gets me, and it's great. And I like the antagonist, I think, is I mean, so I don't know anything about the character in the comics because I know he is like Nick Fury's, like he's in the Agents of Shield comics and stuff, or in the I don't know if he ever turned out to be secretly a Hydra agent in the comics. But I think he works really well in the movie by virtue of just being like, because they establish him early on, he's a normal dude. Like, he's like, hey, Nick Fury, can you get Iron Man to come to my granddaughter's birthday party or something that? Like, you know, he seems like a nice dude. And I think that's important because, like, he's the normal human being who decided that fascism was the right answer. And, like, that makes it, which in my mind just makes him just really insidious and chilling, because that's, like, you know, I think, you know, thinking about the Nazis and stuff, we tend to think of fascism as something that evil people do, but it's like, no, it's something that just humans can do and are very much capable of. And so, I don't know, I just really like how the movie handles its conflict. And, you know, I think Pierce is a really effective antagonist, and I just like that conflict in general, and Winter Soldier is definitely one of my favorite explorations of it. Yeah, it's really good.
I like the action in this movie a lot. I think a lot of it's very
one of the best
well
MCU
done.
movies for actions, yeah.
Not even just like the one-on-one fight scenes. I think there's some really good set pieces, like when he drives the motorcycle out of Shield headquarters. So there's like the helicopter and shit, and he's like jumping over the helicopter and stuff. Fucking awesome. I like again, you know, I mentioned it with Iron Man 3, so I have to mention it with Winter Soldier. I really like the way this movie almost reinforces to Cap this idea that people are the ones with the capacity to good, but you shouldn't put your trust in an organization, you know? And instead you should trust, like, the people that you know are good, which obviously is leading into Civil War and is really good.
Like, and it's also neat, like, because Fury's the one who has the arc in the movie of change in the movie, because he starts out the movie like, trust no one, but then it's like, well, who does he go to? Captain America, someone he can trust, because he can't survive trusting no one, and, you know, Pierce is kind of like the, you know, the extreme version of that ideology, and so, you know, Nick Fury realizes, like, hey, you know, he had to change, he had to evolve, and, yeah, it's really cool.
And then, yeah, I also like Black Widow's arc, where she, by the end, kind of decides. I also like how important of a role she plays. I like that she was very important to both an Iron Man movie and a Captain America movie.
Yeah,
I was
just thinking about how, like, because I was thinking about the way, Nick Fury and Black Widow in particular are important to this one, is kind of like how they were in Iron Man 2. So you have Cap 2 and Iron Man 2 both having this shield importance, I guess, is which I hadn't thought about until just now. Yeah.
I like that it ends with S.H.I.E.L.D. being destroyed, even though S.H.I.E.L.D., right, is the super important thing in Marvel Comics. It hasn't been a part of the MCU for half of the MCU, and I think people forget that, like, you know, the Avengers are, like, their own independent organization, essentially, after this. I also like the way that this movie is actually the one that most closely leads into the events of
Civil War
of Ultron. At
Ultron.
least, like, their goals at the start of Ultron, right? Like, what they're trying to do is based off what happens in this movie, which is cool.
Yeah, no, because I think, isn't this one the one that ends with the teaser of, like, you know, Baron von Strucker, I think, is still active, and we see Wanda and Pietro.
I think so.
at
Yes.
the end of this one? Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. Because the only movie between this one and Age of Ultron is Guardians, which has no connection to Ultron whatsoever.
Guardians really is next, huh? Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes. Good movie.
Good movie. Yeah, maybe a little overhyped, I think. Not that it's not great.
No, I think what maybe part of the reason it is overhyped is because I definitely think, like, maybe since Iron Man, it's the first, like, big game, and I mean, because, like, Avengers was what it was all building up to, but I think Guardians and the response to it was kind of a game changer for the MCU, like we were talking about how like it is a funny movie, but maybe at the time it leaned more into the humor than the other Marvel movies, and in a sense other Marvel movies have leaned into their humor even more, because perhaps as a response to Guardians, but like like, so that's one way in which like the movie was successful.
Oh, I agree.
In a way that, and because Guardians, like following, like it just feels like the biggest follow-up to Iron Man in the sense of like, here it is taking this character that isn't really well known in the general public and making them like instantly like everyone knows them and loves them.
Yeah,
right?
A big Pokemon tree who can only say his name, and a little raccoon man, a man with a developmental disorder and scars all over him, a green lady, and then a guy stuck in the 80s.
Issues. Yeah, and right, and like, so these literally who characters who have like apparently appeared in like very little like media outside of the comics, like I think like one episode of Earth's Mightiest Heroes or something, like they're nobodies, and now they're the fucking Guardians of the Galaxy, and people know who they are, and
I mean they got a video game this year that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the MCU making them household names.
Right, and I was
video game I'm gonna play after this recording.
What? Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
I'm
nice.
pogged up. I'm pogged up.
And I was even just thinking about how like because I watched Eternals earlier this year, and I did like it but like I was even thinking about how like, okay, one, there's twice as many characters to introduce in Eternals as there were in Guardians of the Galaxy, and two, it's just like there's zero chance that they're even before I watched it, there's zero chance they're gonna catch lightning about twice in a row, and they didn't. Right, where it's like, because taking this group of new characters and introducing them all at once, right? And for Guardians, it worked really well. Everyone liked it. I still like the movie, especially like the beginning and end with the stuff with Peter and his mom. Basically, gets to me emotionally really a lot.
Hey, Peter.
I said and I mean, see, and maybe the problem with the middle of the movie is that my parents, it's probably their favorite MCU movie, and they've watched it so much that I've seen so much of the middle parts of the movie that I'm just kind of like, it's familiar to me. Yeah, so like even though I recognize that it's funny, there's still like, I love the running joke with Rocket being ableist and wanting to steal people's prosthetic and artificial limbs because he's a piece of shit. And that's that's funny, but if I'm not necessarily laughing just because I've seen those parts of the movie so many times. So it's just like so like it's still good. It's just, and like the parts that hit emotionally still hit emotionally. But it's just like, it's again, like you said, I'm a bit numb to it, I think.
Yeah, well, and look, I don't mean to say that Guardians isn't a good movie when I say it's overhyped. I just mean I have it in the upper middle of the pack for MCU movies personally. Like, it is not my favorite MCU movie, and I think people act like it's like sometimes you see a lot of talk where it's like the Guardians ones are the only good ones or something. It's like they're really good.
Because as far as like notable commentators, I know like Lindsay Ellis talks a lot about film, and I think the Guardians movies are like the ones she most likes out of the MCU easily, because she just doesn't talk about the rest of the MCU with much positivity whatsoever, right? So I'm not saying other people are basing their opinions on her, but she does have a video validating that opinion.
It is a very commonly accepted sentiment that like they're just the far and away best ones.
Right, she's just a notable like example of that I felt I could bring up basically. Because the Guardians movies aren't my favorite ones, even though I mean Volume 2 is like one of my favorite Marvel movies, but
yeah,
sad.
Yeah, but I mean I think the way it uses music is very good. Obviously everyone knows that, but it made the Guardians really popular when, by all intents and purposes, they probably shouldn't be. So it's pretty good. It's good in my opinion, just for that alone. Yeah.
But yeah. Did you have anything to say about it, Nun?
It's good.
Well, I know you liked Age of Ultron a lot, so why don't you get on that? Start on us on that.
That's next.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah, I thought Age of Ultron was really good. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like top of my movies, just because. Like I immediately liked Vision and Wanda, and they're not as developed as they are now, especially considering WandaVision. But it was nice to see them for the first time in the movie. I really like the stuff with Tony and Age of Ultron because again, it's kind of like his like paranoia and his kind of fear for humanity and kind of fear of things getting out of hand that's like causing him to make these decisions he's making, and a lot of them are irrational and kind of, in this movie it's like really causing the most problems it's ever caused. He does create the antagonist basically. Like Ultron wouldn't have existed without what Tony was doing.
Right. And what's interesting is Tony is making the same mistake that and I mean Cap even calls him out on it in Civil War, I think, but like Tony's making a mistake that like a lot of other people before him have made, where they're so scared for everyone's safety that they encroach upon people's freedoms, and I think it's really cool the way that conflict is brought in here, how Tony's doing it and he has to hide it from Cap because he knows Cap won't agree. But ultimately, at least by the way the MCU sees it, I think generally Cap is the one who's in the right, and I think it's really cool how that plays out.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting to see how Tony is now, because it's like, in the first Iron Man film, he does like kind of overcome how he was like, contributing to war as like a means of profit, but like even though he's not doing that, he's still kind of having problems with which like there's still other problems that he needs to overcome and kind of realize, because even though he's not profiting off of war and he's trying to stop war from even happening in the first place, he's still causing all these problems, and he has to eventually in Civil War, him having conflict with Captain America does show him that he's kind of making a mistake, and I do think it's interesting the way his character goes.
Yeah, I another thing I like about it a lot is that sorry, I don't know, I'm yawning. Is I really like
I don't know what the fuck you just said because you were yawning.
Don't worry about it. Oh well, I think you can even tie that idea somewhat into the great comedy scene, right, of them all trying to lift Mjolnir, where like the only person who could get it to kind of budge was Cap, who still needed more growth and development before he was ready and able to hold the hammer. But like Tony couldn't budge it at all because he isn't worthy to lead. And I also like the way that like the guilt that he feels from creating Ultron in this movie leads to, even though then he also created Vision, right, who's essentially the person who can stop Ultron, right? He the guilt that he feels for creating Ultron is so great that it leads to him trying to have less agency in saving people, which is really cool. Yeah, I like this movie a lot. It's obviously not like as iconic as Avengers 1, but in terms of sitting down and enjoying it, I actually like it more than Avengers 1.
I think it's easily a better movie.
I personally don't like it as much, but I do think the conflict is really good, and I do like it.
Sad. This made me think of a really fucking dog shit stupid thing I saw somebody say about
people are really cringe about Age of Ultron and Far From Home. Never mind. I thought you were gonna say how
no.
People are really
well,
about
like
Age of Ultron
because it was about Tony specifically. So like things like our discussion reminded me of that, because how we were talking about the irrational side of Tony, like how he, he'll do these very elaborate or fucking like crazy things with technology, or just these different plans he has to try and protect everyone. So it's like, this very baked in thing to his character. And I was just thinking about how somebody said that it's weird that in Far From Home they didn't address Tony Stark having these glasses that can assassinate anyone or whatever. And I think part of it said something about like the MCU being very militaristic or something like that. So I was just fucking, it just reminded me of that. Yeah, very cringe when you fucking actually think about Tony's character and like why that makes sense that he would fucking have something like that. But and the movie's not just fucking like, the MCU definitely wouldn't just think that him having that is okay and stuff. It's just it's kind of part of like how flawed Tony is as a person, and how like the movie's more clearly, like very clearly address that all the time.
Yeah,
and even at his best, he makes mistakes a lot.
But anyway, Ant-Man.
Yes. Pog.
I wish I found it funnier than I did, but
no,
it's, you know.
I love Paul Rudd. Look, I do not like the first.
Look, I'm just saying it's the least funny Ant-Man movie.
That is true. Here's the thing: I have this movie ranked relatively low on mine. I still like it quite a bit.
I know. I was thinking about it. I would rather I think it is like my bottom 3, but I'd still much rather rewatch it over fucking Thor: The Dark World or Hulk, like easily.
Yeah, for me, this is when I would say the MCU movies. If you go from like the bottom, not obviously chronologically, but if you go from the bottom of the list up, this is when you start getting to like good movies. You know?
Yeah.
At least for me, and and part of that is also because I love Paul Rudd as an actor so much that like it might taint my view a little bit for this one, but
and honestly, maybe rewatching it, I would appreciate it more because I think rewatching Ant-Man and the Wasp made me like grow to like appreciate just Ant-Man in general more as a character and how he works in the MCU because like, you know, a lot of the other characters are more serious and he's just this like nice average dude who just happens to be really good at being a thief, and he's just like, you know, the way he is like really trusting and hopeful, and he's just like a nice dude. And like that really, like the way that works with how he, you know, contrasts with Hank and Hope and their broken family, and he's just, you know, he's just a cool guy, and I come to appreciate that more after Ant-Man and the Wasp. So maybe I'll, you know, like that aspect more, because, you know, even in this movie he's like there's a whole conflict with the one Yellow Jacket, who, you know, he's basically like just like Hank, to the point, or he's even worse than Hank even, where Hank wants someone who, you know, he needs someone who isn't like him, and, you know, Ant-Man, fucking Scott is, you know, able to be a good person in ways that Hank, you know, can't, and sort of like be like fill in for Janet almost because she's gone, and as just being this positive influence on him. And you know, I like that aspect, and I just, you know, it's also very much there in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but it's good.
Yeah, and there's some things that we'll get into. I'll talk about mainly in Endgame, I think, because I like it there. But I think Ant-Man as a character is really fun, and I'm glad that he's in stuff, and I hope he continues to be important. Like, I hope his importance almost like goes up as, you know, because then he was important in Endgame, right? But he wasn't that important in Civil War.
And it's very much possible that in Phase 4, Quantumania might be one of the more important movies.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Well, yeah, and so
it depends on who, like, because I feel like there's a couple options for possible like main antagonists for the next like phases.
Yeah, and if it's the one who's the Quantumania bad guy, who it very easily could be.
Yeah, the other two is like I would say possible are like either just the Celestials in general, given the build-up they've been giving, like, you know, Galactus possibly, or Doctor Doom, you know, depending on how the Fantastic Four movie goes. But, you know, we'll see.
I want it to be Doctor Doom.
I would rather them... I mean, I don't know how long they'll keep the Fantastic Four, like, actors around. I would almost rather they wait on Doctor Doom. And do, two phases of Kang and then move into Doctor Doom, I think would be really cool. And then, not even completely defeat Kang, so then we can have Kang and Doctor Doom team up and have, like, the fucking, you know...
Yeah, see, these are all characters I don't know. Like, I know of Doom from the 2004 Fantastic movie, and whenever people talk about Doom, they talk about how, like, in the comics he's way more of a big deal, and he's not a very good starting threat for the Fantastic Four. So that's, like, most of what I know about him. So, I don't know. It would be kind of cool to see a more big deal version of him in the MCU, but, you know, we're talking years down the line. Like, even when is fucking Fantastic Four supposed to come out? 2024? 2023? Like, it's gonna be a while.
So crazy. But no, I like Ant-Man a lot. I like the character a lot, and every time I see him, I think I like him more than just from what he had in the previous movie. So
I think fucking him and his daughter are really great.
Yes.
I was fucking mauling when I saw her fucking be grown up. She's not anymore, though, right? Like, after they fucking...
No, what do you mean? Of course she is.
The 5 years still passed.
You still far from home.
Sad. I don't know why I thought that. Terrible. Actually terrible.
No, good.
They fucking ruined Ant-Man forever.
No, I'm excited to see him have a teenage daughter. I think there's interesting things you can do with that.
Anyway, Civil War.
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. Civil War. Moving on.
Great movie.
Civil War is really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
it just barely cracks my top 5. Yeah, it's super good.
right, like having like the low point of the phase kind of end with, you know, the two characters who are the backbone of Marvel's, you know, first three phases in conflict with each other in ways that, like, I think it's also, you know, I feel like someone else mentioned this, but just how, like, if Civil War happened right after their origin movies, they would have been on, or if the Sokovia Accords became a thing after their origin movies, they would have been on the opposite sides as they were in Civil War, because, you know, Tony would have been like, you know, just doing what he wants and you know, having that freedom, when in his movies he, you know, he sort of went in the direction of like he needs accountability and to be under control, because when he goes out of control, you know, Ultron happens. Where, you know, after World War II, you know, Steve would also obviously pretty okay with, you know, accepting, you know, government leadership. But then after Winter Soldier, you know, maybe not, you know, maybe he should be critical. Or even Avengers, when he found out about the weapons that Nick Fury was dealing with. You know, hey, maybe we should be more critical of the people we're, you know, beholden to and our leadership and stuff. So, you know, like, that's a cool little thing.
Yeah, and I think it's, like, so interesting for, like, what Captain America as a character is even supposed to be. Like this man's name is Captain America, but he becomes a fugitive and stays a fugitive for. He's not like,
all of phase 3,
like even after him becoming an old man and being done and saving everyone, he's still technically a fugitive. Like, they didn't undo that. Like, unless
like, no, the fact
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like, ever says something about it, he's still a fugitive as far as we know.
No, I think I forget. I think it was, maybe it was the start of Endgame when Rhodey, like, Ross is fucking telling Rhodey to arrest Steve, like, after the events of Infinity War, and Rhodey tells him to fuck off, and they go to deal with Thanos. I'm pretty sure that's the right. I'm thinking the right scene. Yeah. So you know, so yeah, he's still, like, yeah, he is still a fugitive. I mean, I think after, in the 5 years, like, he was just living normally, but
yeah, I think, you know, they definitely reached a thing where after the blip, even though the Sokovia Accords still exist, which surprised me somewhat, but
yeah, they do still exist. And no, I agree, because it didn't come up in Spider-Man.
In Spider-Man or in Endgame, where, like, I just kind of had the idea, especially because Cap still wasn't a fugitive, where I was just kind of like,
he just seemed to be walking around normally, like, you know, he wasn't right. Like,
it was like after the blip, they kind of realized that it was wrong to try to keep heroes, like, forcibly doing only being reactionary. Right, in that kind of way where they can be too late to do something, or. But
then, yeah, it did come up in WandaVision, which, you know, so.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll come up when we get to Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think there's no shot Sokovia Accords don't get mentioned in that show.
Yeah, it has to, 100%, right? Which I'm excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier, but anyway, that's still like a week away.
Yeah,
but, I really like. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, you. What were you gonna say you really like?
I really like how Captain America making the correct, like, you know, basically making the correct decision and sticking up for his friend who did nothing wrong, kind of, you know, like, in a sense is part of what, quote unquote, won him the day. Because, like, you know, when he, in that scene where he's fighting Tony Stark, he, you know, Bucky does come in to help him, and, you know, they both do fight together and overcome Tony Stark. And, you know, like, in some ways it is a very negative scene because, you know, Captain America and Tony Stark are fighting, and it's like, it is a bad thing, but Captain America still does, well, Steve Rogers still does save his friend and still does, you know, save the other heroes who would fall victim to the Sokovia Accords. So I just thought that was really good and really cool.
Yeah, and I also think the movie, like, it does a lot, and it still, like, sticks the landing. Like, it introduces Black Panther and Spider-Man. It has, like, literally a dozen superhero characters. It has, like, you know, a conflict that I think, you know, I mean, definitely think, like, I mean, the conflict in general, I think, is an interesting one, but in the context of the movie, it's very, like, you know, basically, the only character who doesn't betray the Sokovia Accords is, you know, Rhodey, and he literally gets crippled from the waist down.
Fucking Don Cheadle, dude.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that
no soul.
I love that every single person who signs the Sokovia Accords, obviously we know how the characters who didn't sign them break them, but every character who signed the Sokovia Accords break, except for Rhodey, breaks them at some point in the movie. And then even Rhodey breaks them.
Broken them, right? Like, Spider-Man obviously can't do his superhero stuff with the Accords, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he doesn't break it, I guess, in terms of, like, you know, in the movie. But he does have a line much earlier on that shows that he would sign against the Accords if he knew what he was saying.
Right, like, or the line, the part where he says, like, what Tony said to him was like, you think you're wrong, but you think you're right, and that's what makes you dangerous. But he's not like questioning that if like Tony is the same way or anything, right? He's just being beholden to Tony, who's giving him this opportunity and the suit. But he's not thinking about it. He's a fucking kid, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the conflict's really good. Zemo is effective as just being this manipulative antagonist who, he's just a normal-ass dude, and he still has a lot of presence, and it's really effective. Good movie.
I mean, if there's one, like, complaint I would have about Civil War, even though it's, like, literally top 3 for me, it is Spider-Man just, like, kind of coming in, just being a thing. Like, I don't think he needs an origin, but I still think... how he came in the movie initially wasn't like particularly like, I don't know, it was like kind of underwhelming, I guess. I do think both of his movies are good, but him in not Age of Ultron, fucking Civil War was just like super sudden, and he was just like, it didn't really build up to him in any other movie or in Civil War itself, so I didn't think it was like that good in that sense, even though he, his movies more than make up for it, so it's fine.
Doctor Strange?
Yes. Good movie.
Yeah. Not a favorite, but it's still like solid and enjoyable, and yeah.
Really, really good introduction movie, I think. I like Doctor Strange as a character. I love the visual effects around his magic in any of the movies they've shown up in.
Especially when they go to the other, the through the mirror world or whatever it was, where everything's getting all Inception-y. Like, that's always fun, the way they, or having how he affects Caecilius affects reality with that, and like fucking, I don't know, it's just got some cool stuff going. Or they have a fight, and a fucking Strange is astral projecting, so they're having like a ghost fight throughout the hospital. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, and it's Strange himself, his arc is good, and the conflict, I think, works, and,
the climax is so fucking pog. The way he beats Manus in that movie is so good. It's unreal. Dormammu, you're right. I was thinking, yeah. Dormammu.
Dark Souls?
Did you say
Manus?
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm dumb. Don't talk to me.
I'm just wondering where Manus came from, because
I don't know. Don't ask me. Don't ask me. We're over it, okay? I said Dormammu, right? Cool, thank you. Yeah.
Vindy, I've come to bargain. Say Manus again. No, I'm kidding.
Pog scene, very cool.
No, yeah, like that became a meme after the movie came out, and for a good reason, because it really stands out as and it's like a great resolution to his character arc, and Doctor Strange good. Solid movie. And also I was just thinking about how, like, because I remember the complaint that the MCU has too many origin stories, but I definitely, thinking about it, I feel like they're definitely going to be they're less common nowadays, just because there are so many other sequel movies happening. I don't know. But I mean, it wasn't something I had a problem with in the first
now
place,
a lot of origins I feel like are going to be given TV shows.
And other things. Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of these origins, because like introducing a hero in a movie is a lot harder than introducing them in an 8-episode streaming TV show.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, like you can get through it a lot faster in the TV show, or not go through it, but go through it in way more depth, right? And really give
because at the end of the day, the series have more runtime than a movie would have. So while also not being like like they have things they don't have to worry about. So Yeah,
and they also don't have to worry as hard about trying to like do well at the box office, right? If you're on a TV show and you're on Disney Plus, people are probably just going to turn it on. But there are probably a lot of people who will turn on the Hawkeye TV show. I don't know why you fucking said it like that. Who wouldn't go watch Hawkeye in the theaters, right? They wouldn't care enough to go spend money to go to the theater for Hawkeye. But yeah, I have Disney Plus. I'll turn on Hawkeye. So
I forgot to mention this earlier, but like I don't know if you guys knew about this or anything, but apparently Black Widow was supposed to be the first fucking MCU movie even before Iron Man. I don't fucking know if you guys heard about that ever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something about like it was like a canceled movie. It was like gonna be like a fucking. It's gonna be pretty highly rated. I don't remember the exact rating, but it's definitely not PG-13.
I was gonna say, well, then it would be R. But I was gonna say, mid-2000s Black Widow movie definitely sounds like one that is 90% shots of like her ass. So maybe sad it didn't happen. Yeah. Next, if everyone's done with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Guardians 2. Great movie.
Holy fuck. And part of it, I think, is also because it's just not as watched to death. Like, my parents don't like it as much as the first one, so they don't watch it as much, which means I've seen less scenes of it. So the humor landed with me way more just because I'm not as familiar with the jokes, and it's really funny. And, like, it's also just, like, I think I like having the Guardians as a group together more than they're getting together as a group, because it's just nice to see them interacting and already being familiar with each other. The way they're looking out for Groot. Like, Gamora's such a good straight man because they're also, like, ridiculous. And, like, I love how Drax is just, like, you know, excitedly talking about his family now that he's, like, overcome their death, basically. But you know, he's still, like, glad to have known them, but he'll, like, gladly talk, or like, oh, my father talked about the insemination of my mother every winter, or something like that. Like, just silly shit like that. And I don't know, like, they're all so good. And, you know, Ego's a piece of shit. And the conflict, the fucking Yondu, and holy fuck, it's such a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else talk.
Sad.
Yeah, I love it a lot. I definitely like seeing the Guardians be a group and not just be, oh, we're getting together, we don't know anything. Like, one thing that I love in one thing that I love about, like, Infinity War is that they understand Groot now, right? Because they've been with him for so long. And so I really do like seeing the Guardians be a group that has, like, a defined, like, dynamic, right? And it's not the exact same as their dynamic was in the first Guardians movie, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's been time that they've spent together, and so they've formed this dynamic. And I like that, you know, they're all listening to music in the first fight, right? And they're, like, talking about, like, gear that Rocket's made for everyone, and, you know, like, I like a lot of that. I like the way that Rocket being an asshole really kind of shows up in this movie, where he is almost worried about losing everyone by being such an asshole, and he kind of has to learn to
but
tone
also
it back.
but he doesn't want to be hurt by them, so he tries to push them away first. But then we see how, like, that gets contrasted with Yondu, and Yondu's stuff is really fucking good, where the way, like, he helps Peter and fucking God, it's so fucking, like, the you know, when he describes how he's using his powers in the climax, and it gets cut off, his words get cut off, but Peter, like, we see the montage and it gets all pieced together, and it's so fucking good. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's very good. Great movie.
Probably the Marvel movie that makes me cry the most.
Yeah, definitely same, but that doesn't mean that
it's not my favorite, but it's really, yeah.
It's very good, yeah. And there's a lot that it does that's really good. I'm very excited for the future of the Guardians movies. Yeah. Next is Spider-Man, right?
None didn't have anything to say? Sad.
Or, sorry, none? Do you have anything you want to say about it?
Good movie.
Okay. Did we skip Spider-Man, or is Spider-Man now?
No,
I think
Spider-Man's next.
Okay. I thought I skipped it for a second. Spider-Man. None.
I fucking knew you were gonna do that.
It's your time to talk about a movie you like a lot.
It's literally one of your favorite ones in the whole MCU. It's also one of your favorite Spider-Man movies.
Not true. True. Okay, true. Never mind. I mean, yeah, I liked Homecoming a lot. Like, I thought it was very, very refreshing in terms of Spider-Man media that's been, like, on TV or, like, you know, in
movies and
in movie theaters, because it's like, you know, I don't fucking read the comics or anything, so I couldn't really say, like, I couldn't compare it to anything in the comics, but at least, like, as someone who's seen a good amount of the things on TV and, like, all the other movies, I do think it stands out a lot from everything else.
No, yeah, because I what I would say is, like, because as I understand in the comics, Peter spends much more time as an adult, where in other media, especially, like, post Spider-Man, the Raimi trilogy, it's high school focused. And I think as a high school focused Spider-Man, yeah, it, like you were talking about a lot of the ways it's different, and it definitely really does stand out. And not even just, like, in the way it's, like, MCU connected with, especially in particular, like, Peter's relationship with Tony, which is, I think, cool, and I like it, you know, because, like, Tony's a superhero. It's a different relationship than he has with Ben, you know, but, you know, the other ways that the movies are different is, it's nice, and I, you know, like, I like the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, I very much enjoy the way that the movies handle like these Spider-Man movies handle the high school aspect, because I think a lot of times that you can put them in high school and it feels like the high school is used more as like almost like a device, right? Where like especially in like the Amazing movies, where I think a lot less of it is about the fact that Peter is like an awkward high schooler who wants to do a bunch of high school things, and it feels like it's about a lot about he has class that he has to miss for this and other things like that, And so I do think that like it is nice seeing a movie where like just a core part of it is that he's a awkward edgy, or not awkward edgy, but he's like an awkward fucking high schooler, right? And he just fucking does dumb shit and has to go to fucking class and watch a video of Captain America talking stiltedly about doing whatever.
Ned's really good. Happy. Was Happy in this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Not as much as in Far From Home, but he's still there.
We love Jon Favreau.
It's. I really like the Vulture in the movie. I think he's really good, and he's probably one of my favorite MCU villains. But he just has like oh god, like the way it's kind of used is like, oh yeah, your girlfriend's a scary dad. He's also like literally a villain, right? Like that's kind of a neat way in which it works into the high school premise, but like in a exaggerated way, I suppose. Like the conversation they have, and like how that's the moment that Spider-Man decides to like keep being Spider-Man and like do something instead of just like only do it's I don't know, it's good. I had a thought somewhere in there, but it's gone. Goodbye.
I love Ned.
Yes.
Everyone keeps talking about Ned's gonna become the Hobgoblin. Possible, but I'll kill myself. Just saying that right now. I love Ned so much.
He better not.
What?
He better not.
He's such a good guy. He's like I like the scene in Infinity War where Peter says I need a distraction, and I honestly don't even think Ned was like trying to like distract necessarily. I think he just like freaked out like when he saw the big ring in the sky. Like the way he just acts is so quick. And of course, in Homecoming he's still funny. Like I'm the guy in the chair, and he's just like he's such a dork.
Yeah, very good. Next is Thor Ragnarok. Okay. Unless people have more to say about Homecoming, I'm sorry.
What the fuck?
I'm trying to keep the conversation somewhat moving.
Why did Crafts just say it's okay?
I was trying to piss Vindy off, but he wasn't even listening.
I was ignoring, is what I like to call it. Ragnarok is my... What is it for me? It actually might still be my third... No, it's my fourth favorite. For a while, it was my favorite MCU movie. I fucking love Thor Ragnarok. It's what makes Thor like my favorite...
It makes Thor good, yeah.
It makes Thor my favorite Avenger. That and then somewhat what he goes through in Infinity War and Endgame, but mainly this movie's like, I go even from the first fucking scene, Thor is great. The fucking moment where he's like spinning around and he can't see the guy's like, hold on, and he's like spinning back around and he's trying to time his hammer to come with him from like the beginning, right? He's fucking awesome. The movie's funny.
It does good stuff with Hulk. Valkyrie's cool.
Yeah, it gives Thor a good supporting cast of characters.
Yes, that's why. That's honestly, like, aside from just like it being also, it makes Thor funny. He has good supporting cast.
Like Korg is just a comedy character. Like Korg is Darcy but good. Okay, and what I mean by that is, I
big rock man.
Fuck out.
All you had to do to make Darcy good was make her not be a woman.
Have her play Fortnite with the boys. Look, when Korg shows up in Endgame, I pog the fuck out. All right? I love Korg. He might be the funniest character in that movie. When he like runs and goes like, when like there's the Loki projection,
Ghost.
Piss off, Ghost, and he like kicks
That was it.
Oh my god.
I mean, for me, I think the funniest scene is still when like Thor tells the story of young Loki tricking him with the snake, and where he was a snake and they transformed back and he's like, ha, and he stabbed me, and that just fucking kills me. The way Banner like instead of like busting out laughing, like you can tell he's professional because he just looks like at Loki in horror, and like it's just like Fucking amazing.
I also love, I think my favorite joke in the movie is still, though, when Bruce decides, he musters up the courage, he's like, look, I don't care if I have to become the Hulk. I'm doing it. And he jumps out of the plane expecting to turn into the Hulk before he lands and just smashes into the fucking bridge as Bruce and
the fucking Fenrir like stops, like the fucking wolf was just charging, and then like the Bruce just drops down, and I think Fenrir just like stops, and then but it and it's also nice to see Hulk without being like beholden to Bruce, in a sense, like how he just acts like normally. Like, yeah, he's still pissed off and angry and a tantruming child, but he
has a character.
Right, and like especially I remember when like Valkyrie's leaving and he like throws a big fucking like ant monster jawbone and he goes stay, and it's just like
I love that he keeps calling Thor puny Avenger.
And then there's a joke with where the password to the ship is strongest Avenger, because Tony sees Hulk as the strongest Avenger and Thor sees himself as the strongest.
Yeah, and Thor's his fucking Point Break. I also really like the scenes where Thor and Hulk are arguing. Actually, I think that's like a really, really good scene for Hulk, because it gives a lot more insight into his character, right? Like when he's talking about how they're bad friends, and things, you see that like Hulk thinks a lot more about everything that's going on than I think a lot of people think
anyone
he
had
does.
given him credit.
And I think that's super cool and like interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
I liked when Thor kept telling Hulk that he preferred him over Bruce, and then with Bruce he said he preferred Bruce over Hulk.
Piece of shit. It was funny though.
And
of course Hulk's, or not Hulk's, Thor's arc of, not being limited and beholden to like being like his father and surpassing him instead is just a better version of what was going on in Thor 2. So yeah.
I also I love I haven't mentioned this yet. I love that the MCU gets more sci-fi as it goes, because I love sci-fi, and I like how even more so than like the Dark, where it's like, sure, they were in like spaceships, but they were fucking dark elves, okay? Like this movie, it was like, like I love the fucking setting for this movie. I don't remember what it's called, but like the place they go to that's like in between, and so it's just like this like giant scrapyard for a bunch of different people that get lost is fucking great. And I love that thing. I love the way the movie looks. There's so many just like great moments visually. It uses its soundtrack really well. I think it even gives characters like the guy who replaces Heimdall when Heimdall leaves. You know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, he
has like a whole character arc, and he's like, I don't expect to see him ever again in the MCU. You know, so I think the movie does a really good job of just being a great fucking superhero movie, and it's so fun and entertaining, and yeah.
And if there's a relative weak spot, it's like Hela. I mean, she's way better than Malekith, but she's just like, she's fine. I have MCU villains I prefer. I have plenty I dislike, or like less than her, rather. But like, when I think about how good the movie is in general, I definitely think of Hela as just, she's okay.
I love even some of I love that Doctor Strange is in the movie for like a scene, and it's a great scene.
He's like giving one up on these fucking these gods and just like teleporting Thor around.
Petition to have either Doctor Strange or what's his friend's name? I can't remember it. You said it earlier, but I'm dumb. Wong. Yeah. Petition to have one of the two of them in every MCU movie, just showing up for something. Like even if it's not important, they show up to hang out or they pull people into their fucking little rooms. It's Pog. I love it. Yeah. I like Ragnarok a lot. It's one of my favorite ones.
Yep. Next up is Black Panther.
Ooh.
Which I still like it, though I definitely think I like it less than I did the first time I watched it. But like,
you got slightly more racist, I see.
I've become more racist, yes, unfortunately. But I do like T'Challa's arc. I do like Killmonger. I think it's just really well written overall. I just, for some reason, I didn't vibe with it, I guess. Vibranium, I don't know. Shut up. Me.
Maybe you're still bitter about not being able to say the N-word anymore. I think Black Panther is really good. I did talk about it on a weekly, but to summarize, I thought it was very interesting. I thought Killmonger was a very, very good villain. He's definitely one of my favorite villains in the MCU. I just think how it fucking takes from a lot of aspects that minorities fucking deal with, and implements it into his character is really good. Like, you know, he obviously lost his father at a young age. He was, you know, economically, he wasn't in the best position. And it also kind of just makes a lot of references to Black people's place in the world, and kind of, you know, he makes direct references to slavery.
His introductory scene was, you know, talking about how this, like, he was in fucking Europe and bringing up how, like, oh, look, they've taken these artifacts from, you know, ancient African history and are putting them in their museums, like, you know, and he was commenting on how, oh, yeah, your ancestors were, you know, murderers and thieves, like, you know, because here they are taking these artifacts that do not belong to them and they're still here, like, and so, you know, it's some, you know, yeah, and it's, yeah, very much comments on just, yeah, the general global issues, yeah.
And like a big part of his character is just kind of like, you know, because he feels like he was wronged, he feels like he can direct that same hate and that same like the same actions other people did to him back at them, which is very much a thing I think a lot of people in real life do. So like in that sense, I think he's very interesting as a villain, and it very much is like, you know, him doing all these things that other people did isn't gonna fucking help him in the end. Like, you know, you see the outcome of his actions and see how ultimately he can't get the people of Wakanda to support him, especially when he's like basically acting like a fucking dictator and taking over, and like when you really think about it, he's almost fucking making the people of Wakanda his fucking slaves. Like, you know, like,
no, yeah,
he is like just forcing them into, like, he's becoming their master and making them do the things they didn't want to do.
No, yeah, and just the way he works as, like, a product of Wakanda's, like, failings, because, you know, like, you know, his father was killed violently. You know, he grew up in a culture of violence. You know, he became a soldier, and so when he came to Wakanda, that was all he knew. And so, you know, when he thinks of Wakanda as, like, because, yeah, they did have the potential to, you know, help the world and help a lot of people, but, you know, he just, again, only thought to do that through violence because that was all he knew, and that, you know, was Wakanda's fault in a sense, in part. So, you know, the way that T'Challa, and, like, what, Vindy, you pointed out how, like, Shuri says something about how, like, it's just because it works doesn't mean it can't be made to be better, and that's, like, the point of the movie, because, you know, Wakanda worked, but T'Challa can make it better in ways that his ancestors didn't, and, it's cool.
Yeah, I like the conflict a lot, and I think it's super cool. Good movie. Worst part of the PS2 graphics at some points, but it's I think, like, when I say that's the worst thing, I don't even think it's bad. It's just like, that kind of sucks. That, like, you know, that's just the state of the world we live in. But it's not something where it's like I actively hold it against the movie or think the movie's worse for it, because I'm not a fucking cringer, you know. So. Yeah.
I also think T'Challa was really good. I'm surprised that I liked him as much as I did. Yeah, I do think his arc throughout the movie is really good, because, like, you know, even though fucking Killmonger is the villain and is in the wrong, T'Challa still obviously does, like, learn from him and change in some regard, and realize that he does need to help the world more than he has been. Is still really good, because, like, even though Killmonger did fucking succumb to the shackles of hatred, you know, he still had a little bit of a point there, even though he was trying to fucking be a dictator and fucking be a little crazy boy. Yeah, good movie. I liked it.
Yeah, I am worried.
Would be interested in rewatching it at some point.
And I am worried for the sequel, considering, you know, Chadwick had passed away. And, you know, just, I hope it's good, but I don't know.
I think it got, like, delayed or something, because it was supposed to.
Yes, one of the actors got injured, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Next is
oh
my god,
Infinity War.
Poggers movie.
Yeah. I liked it the first time. Well, I watched it in theaters the first time. I was also dog shit stupid, and I was like trying to judge the movie on its own merits, and I had some problems with how it was handling its themes of sacrifice. Like a year before Endgame came out, and like answered the problems that I had. So rewatching it, I not only like didn't have those problems, but I was just like fucking on the edge of my seat, engaged for like 2.5 fucking hours.
Yeah. From minute one, the movie goes fucking hard. Like it. I'm curious. I feel like it probably does. Maybe Endgame beats it out because it's longer and has like an hour of it at the end. But I feel like this might be the MCU movie with like the most action, like as like a percentage of its runtime. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like
it might surpass.
Because like so much of this movie and I don't even mean that in a bad way at all. I love superhero fights, so I'm all about it. But I like that it's a battle that's being staged on these multiple fronts all at once. Whereas opposed to Endgame, it's all one place, so everyone's able to fully work together. And here it's right. There's like 5 different battles, and they're not really working together. Or there's 2 different ones, but there's 2 different battles, and they're not like really working together. And I think that's cool though, because you get like like a bunch of people versus the mob fight, and then you have like just in the climax, you also then have like 6 guys just trying to take on Thanos with just their powers. So you get like Thanos being absolutely fucking insane.
Thanos has a lot of presence. He does some really cool stuff with the Infinity Stones. Like, when he fucking shatters the moon and brings the pieces to rain fucking down is just like, holy fuck. And then just like, he fucking opens the movie. Like, I think he even fucking takes off the Infinity Gauntlet and he just fucking, with just his raw strength, beats up the Hulk. And it's
That's the first thing he does in the movie is he beats the shit out of the Hulk with just his hands.
Like, the presence Thanos had, like, because he's been built up for so long, and I just feel like they delivered on him. Like, he's interesting, he's perfect for the conflict, he's, like Infinity War is the movie that sets up Thanos, and it just does a really good job at it, and it's really good.
I agree. I love how driven, and the fact that Thanos is so driven to make this happen is, like, a large part of like his character, right? And what he means by that I am inevitable line, because he's going to show up even if you do everything you can to stop him. And it's great. Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff. I love Thor in this movie as well. I
love the character interactions. I love the way, like, fucking, like, when Tony and Doctor Strange, like, here you have, like, this guy representing technology and this guy representing the scientists, both with massive egos, butting heads, and, like, that's good. Like when Spider-Man gets involved, like that adds to it. And then, like when Thor meets the Guardians and, Thor is being confident and Peter's getting uppity and insecure. And, like, there's just so many, like, when fucking, in the climax when Rocket sees Bucky and he's like, how much for that gun? And Bucky's like, no. And how much for that arm? And Bucky doesn't say anything. And he's like, I'm gonna get that arm. It's just like, like the way they use all these little character details in ways that, like, are just perfect is just like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know, it's just really fun to see all these characters interact. And like obviously this is on a scale because like Ultron didn't really have that many more characters than the first Avengers, but Infinity War has so many more characters now that there's just like so much going on, and it's just really cool. Like I love like fucking having fucking Peter Parker interact with Peter Quill is just like so perfect, because here you have this guy whose pop culture references are stuck in the 80s. And here you have this kid who literally wasn't even born when Peter was taken away, and they're making movie references, but from these 2 different perspectives. Like,
there's
it's just
also
so perfect.
One of the great lines, fucking hysterical line, where Doctor Strange is being a fucking weirdo. He's like, "What master do you serve?" He goes, "What am I supposed to say, Jesus?" I love it.
And that helps, like, Tony realize, wait, hold on, you're from Earth, aren't you? I'm from Missouri, and that's on Earth, dumbass. Like,
it's good. I really like a lot of those. Another small thing that I actually really like in the movie is like the moment where when Thor shows up, right? I like that because he got this he had a I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it well. Like, he had a good relationship. He got this good relationship with Bruce in Ragnarok, right? He spent time with Bruce and really bonded with Bruce. So Bruce is the most excited to see him. Even though when you think about it from a lot of other people's perspectives, like, Cap hadn't seen Thor since fucking Ultron, right? Like, a lot of those people, Thor just been missing, and he shows up, but the one who's most excited is Bruce, because they're besties now. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. Infinity War is really cool. The way it ends on just, like, this huge gut punch, and... Did the credits have music? Or was it... No, or it was, like, really... Or was it sad music?
Do you want me to look?
Or was it silent? I forget.
I will
sure. I just remember, like, just the way the movie ends is just, like, crushing, and, like, because they... end off on this just rough defeat, and it's
well, they
really
lose, and then it shows
like,
Thanos at the farm, and then hold on, Cap's on screen. I think he said they lost. I missed that. Thanos on the farm. No, it just has like somber like music.
Okay, there was music. It just
it's like somber, sad. Yeah, it doesn't end on the Avengers theme.
Right, like, and even every other Marvel movie has, like, positive music because it ends in a good place, and this is the one that doesn't, and it's really effective.
Yeah, very
stands out.
I think Infinity War is cool for, like, how it just sets up a lot of, like, it sets up a bunch of relationships for later on, like Thor and the Guardians just kind of, like, knowing each other, and, like, you know, it'll be interesting to see what Thor will do with the Guardians in the future. Especially because it's like such a unique pairing, I would say.
I think it's already
there's a lot of
in some comics,
like that.
But it's still cool.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's good movie, great movie. Only reason it's not the best is because its part 2 goes so unbelievably hard in so many ways that it just can't be beat.
So anyway, Ant-Man and the Wasp. The better Ant-Man movie.
Sad. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's better, but personally for me, it hits one of those things where it's like, I do recognize aspects of it that are better, but it's not like so much notably better or more interesting or anything to the point where it's like it reaches like kind of a little bit of like more of the same kind of, to where I don't have as great of an experience watching it as like the first initial impression of seeing Ant-Man and like liking the actor and stuff. Like, it's still good, and like,
I mean, for me, it's
again like with this especially,
6,
I would say like I do see how it's better, but you know, it's good.
But yeah, I definitely think, well, you know, you were talking about Vindy about how just people seem to hate on it a bit too much, and I agree that it's likely because of just like it's between Endgame and Infinity War. And it like does important setup for Endgame, and that like Ant-Man is literally like the most important character in a sense to like how the movie goes. But like you know, it's like a fine Marvel movie. Like, it's, you know, like it's easily in the lower half for me. You know, so it's unfortunate that it happens to be sandwiched in between two, or you know, with another you know, it's okay Marvel movie in between like two of the best ones. But it's still, yeah, I liked it.
Neaters.
And like I was talking about earlier, really, the aspect that I like the most about the Ant-Man movies is just Scott being this positive influence on the Pym family, and it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, there's some things that I like in the movie. Yeah, I don't know. None, you talk.
This will be the final fucking Ant-Man before Ant-Man just becomes terrible and unwatchable.
I like in this movie how like I like that his arc isn't done. Like, I feel like this is the movie where he becomes like a hero, you know? I think that's...
Oh yeah, no, when he has his like realization talking to his daughter and he goes to help even after he's been like, you know, cast out and distrusted by Hank and Hope, and he goes to help them anyway.
Yeah, and I feel like
really
that's
good.
like the moment where he really does become a he does become like a hero, and I like that a lot. I think that's like super good for him, because it really helps him leading into Endgame to fully be, you know, and it also helps because, right, he's the one who like kind of he completes like his hero's journey, if you want to say, right, and then fucking you know, everyone fucking dies, so now he's gotta go try to deal with that, and of course he's the one who's the most like willing to like keep looking for a solution over everyone else because he hasn't dealt with the pain of the last 5 years like everyone else has.
Right, and so yeah, and just the way he is, and it's good. But we'll talk about that when we get to Endgame.
Captain Marvel.
Next up, Captain Marvel, which I also liked less than the first time I saw it, but I still think it's good.
Okay, bigot.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's good, but it's
good movie. Disgustingly overhated.
I agree. It is way overhated. It's not bad at all.
Way too much shit. Like, because if I have issues with it, I mean, I guess I don't like the climax as much. Like, it's fine, but like I do think the arc is good. Like, I do like seeing Carol like interacting with humans and getting a bit more of humanity back, and just like the way the movie starts, even where it's just kind of like off because like she's not questioning authority. She's being told not to question authority, and she's also being told to like use her mind and not her feelings. And so she's basically told like the opposite messages of other Marvel movies like Guardians 2 and Winter Soldier, which works out because like it turns out that the twist is that they're the bad guys, and she needs to not listen to them. So like I don't know, and the way the twist was set up, like with the Skrulls usually being bad guys in the comics, and actually no, these guys are good, and they're being unjustly warred against. And like I don't know, the twist, like I even watching the first time, like I thought the reveal was good.
I really liked the whole interactions Nick Fury and Captain Marvel had, because I do think, even though Nick Fury has obviously been very significant in the movies so far, I would say he has the longest run time he's like been like in the spotlight, like in the focus in Captain Marvel.
It's either
probably.
This, Iron Man 2, Avengers 1, or Winter Soldier. But it had been, either way, it had been a long time since he...
No, I was just thinking about how like the last time we really even saw Fury at all was at the end of Age of Ultron when he comes in for the save. So like, he's kind of just absent.
And this is like definitely him like being more in the action of
he's arguably he's like as important, if not more so, than in some of the other movies he shows up in.
I one scene that I do want to bring up that I really like, that was closer to the climax, was just kind of like Captain Marvel falling down constantly, but like it has a whole like
the montage of her
montage of her continuing standing up. I thought that was a really great scene, and it's probably my favorite scene in the movie.
It's pretty cool. I agree.
I think it was really well done. And in general, I do think the movie did a great job with showing how she, proved herself, and kind of, doesn't have to worry about feeling insignificant or too weak or anything like that. And I also thought that like when I was watching the movie about how crazily overblown it was that Captain Marvel took that guy's bike.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that being a whole fucking discussion, but it's like she took for one, she kind of took his bike before she was even like a hero. Like she didn't understand how Earth kind of worked.
Yeah, she was being a soldier, and she didn't even understand that it wasn't like she was literally talking to the cop officer under official protocol, and he did, like Earth isn't even like space aligned yet, and
so like even in just that context, like people are like insanely stupid for fucking like not even like considering like it just seems like people weren't even considering the fucking like actual context of what was going on there. But also I do think it is notable how that guy was acting when she interacted with him. I don't know. It's very weird how it was very much not a big deal at all when you actually like watch the scene. I
definitely think people way overhate
I think
her, but
no, and I also like, because I've seen some comments from the actress Brie Larson. She seems maybe a little annoying, but I don't think I'm not going to hold that against the character. I guess. I don't know. It's not my favorite movie. I don't love it, but I'm not going to say it's like super terrible. I think it's still bottom 10 for me, but again, we're at the point where like it's only like the last two that I don't even like, so Yeah, it's fine.
I think she has good interactions with Nick Fury. I do like their kind of like, I do like the moments where he's saying something, but like she'll give him like a little bit of shit because he's like, being like kind of dumb about something or whatever. I do think the movie does a good job with those two as a, as the main two of the movie. Yeah, it's good. I would say I actually do like Captain Marvel as a character. Not like one of my favorites or anything, but I would say she's good.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious how the Marvels is gonna shape up with more of her and also Monica and Miss Marvel, Chemicon. So that should be cool. Though I guess to think of something that I know people were complaining about with the whole Nick Fury eye patch thing. I guess they didn't need to explain it in the first place. I'm gonna be honest. Thinking about it is, I don't know. I find it a little funny, but more the idea so than the joke in the movie itself, I guess. With yeah, I don't, whatever.
Oh yeah, I do also think I thought it was super fucking sick the reveal that like where the Avengers name comes from.
Oh yeah,
and like I do just kind of like the origins, like the kind of origin story ish in general. Of this just being a prequel to literally everything we knew so far, and in that way I think it's like not egregious to watch it before Endgame. Like obviously like once you've seen it you can skip it when you're like rewatching and stuff, but like I do think it actually makes sense where it is and it's like perfectly fine. And it's kind of just like cool as a not really a big flashback, but kind of a look back at the very beginning before the end of something big.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready to move on to Endgame itself.
Endgame.
Okay, so all of us agree it's the best MCU movie?
It's my favorite, yeah.
Yep.
It's really fucking good. Like it starts off, everything's fucked, and then they kill Thanos, and it doesn't change anything. And but Ant-Man comes back, and then we get the fucking heist movie. We get all this big, like it's all big. Yeah, it's like a big love letter / celebration of the MCU at this point, where we get to go through the history of it. Like it fucking makes Thor. It doesn't make the Thor the Dark World good, but what it uses is better than Thor the Dark World from that movie. Like it goes, it has all these great interactions. Like you see characters like fucking like Nebula and Rhodey are two characters who like you get to see interact and you never would have otherwise. And like they're watching fucking Peter like sing Into the Rat, but we see it without the music, so it's just really like silly, and it's so. Like there's so much good. Like when they go back to the fucking Avengers 1 and Hulk is like seeing his past self be angry and he's just like cringing and like like it's so there's so much good stuff going on.
I love the fucking what's it called? The way that Ant-Man is about Captain America, where it keeps calling him Cap and is so like serious around him all the time. Including the America's ass line, great.
Oh my god, you just reminded me of the scene where like some kids come to take a picture of a Hulk, and Ant-Man like mentions, "Oh, I'm Ant-Man," and they just like kind of look at him like, "Who the fuck is Ant-Man?" And then it just gets like really awkward as Hulk's trying to like say, "Hey, maybe the kids should take a picture of Ant-Man." He's like, "No, I'm good, and then like it's just like. It's so like there's a lot of funny stuff and interactions, but then like the serious stuff is also still really good. Like the moments of like Thor talking to his mom again and overcoming dealing with that cause especially at this low point where he's lost so much of everything and basically his whole family, and so he getting to talk to his mom again, and he's still worthy. And then of course Tony talking to his dad unknowingly, of course, for him, and like. Like, I don't know, it's just really good.
I think what made me the most sad was seeing Steve talk to Peggy. Fucking... Well, actually, no, he didn't talk to her, but he saw her.
Going through her office and stuff and seeing
yeah.
her. Yeah.
And he really wanted to go over to her, but he couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's very sad.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and then, like... of course, the climax has so much fucking phenomenal
so much great shit in it. Yeah.
Fucking Steve using the hammer I knew it. Like, Thor's no longer insecure and worried that he's using the hammer. He's fucking happy.
Yeah, it's great.
And though, of course, there's still the moment where, like, I love in the fight where, like, Steve gets his big axe and Thor gets, and he's like, no, you have the little one, and they train.
Well, he's still Thor, even if he's happy for, you know.
Right.
I love. There's another part. Oh, I love that the line that they come in with is Sam saying "on your left" as well.
The portal scene is so
and the fact that the portal scene.
I cried both when I saw it in theaters and rewatching
I just love that it starts with "on your left" because it's fucking.
Yes. And you just see all these characters come through, like the cavalry's fucking arrive, everybody's dead, and just like so many fucking like, you know, the Wakanda, the sorcerers, like just fucking armies, and all these, you know, like, you know, snapped away characters just coming back to help and save the day. Like, they immediately are fucking going for it, and it's just the fucking and Avengers. So it was actually the first time they say Avengers Assemble in the movie, because I looked and they did not say it in the scene you guys mentioned in the first Avengers. So the first time they say Avengers Assemble in the movie is in that scene, and it's so fucking good. And
yeah, it's Pog, very good, great movie. We talked about it a lot, I'm pretty sure, on another Weeb Club. It's hard because, you know, not only is like we talked about these on the Weeb Club, but if we talked in super depth about every single one of these movies, it would be really long. So I don't have much more to say. I think Endgame does a phenomenal job at capping off the entire first three phases, and like when you see it as like, you know, the ending to this huge saga, what it does is insane. And then I also think it does, like, it's super sick how outside of Ant-Man and Rocket, and that might be it, everyone else doing the final thing are the original Avengers. Like, it's the original Avengers that are left.
Well, there's also like Nebula and Rhodey.
Okay, I forgot about I forgot about Nebula and Rhodey. But like a lot of these other characters that would have taken up a lot of screen time because people very much like them aren't in it, right? So most of it is the original Avengers and their story. It's very specific
that the original 6 survived the snap, and they're like here like finishing out what, you know, you could argue that they started in a sense by like saving New York in Avengers 1 and forming the Avengers, and here they are in this major, you know, point of like they're broken up and they get back together and they stop Thanos, and it's great. Yeah, well, not all of them because of, you know, Black Widow, but you know, that happens.
See, I'm not like as super into Thanos as a character as some other people are, but Endgame was so satisfying to see because it was just like, even though, you know, again, I don't think Thanos is as interesting as I thought he was fucking hyped up to be to me, I guess. He's like the ultimate, like, yes, drag his ass. Like, that's like,
right.
Like, that's what I was thinking when I saw that whole portal scene. Like, get this bum. Like,
right, because he's the only villain who like wins at any point in the MCU, really, or, you know, at least at the end of a movie. And so like, and technically it wasn't even this version, but like, it's so, you know, because he's been built up for so long and, you know, has this like presence and position in the story that like, you know, he's obviously like, okay, yeah, he needs to be stopped, so it's just perfect to have everyone come in to stop him. And yeah, the Avengers have finally assembled, and it's really great.
Like, I think the literal, like, there's literally only one thing about Endgame that I could say that I you know, would complain about personally, and that is because, like, fucking, I think Captain Marvel being, like, doing nothing, like, being so fucking underplayed in that movie is actually, like, kind of cringe, I would say. Like, I feel like, she's the first fucking Avenger. Yeah. Like, I feel like her just not playing a role that she could have.
The first, but
it's literally the subtitle of the movie.
That was, I'm sorry.
Okay, fuck you.
But no, like, because, I mean, I do think her entrance scene is cool, like, just the way that the cannons all turn to Captain Marvel because they sense that threat coming.
Yeah, I think it's explained well enough. Like, I do like the line, you know, what's happening here on Earth is happening.
Yeah, I get that she's helping. Yeah, I know, but I don't fucking like it. It's fucking cringe.
Yeah, well, and because she doesn't get good interactions with the Avengers, which I think it is something missing. Because, like, between Infinity War and Endgame, there's a lot of other good interactions between other members of characters from these movies that wouldn't get to interact otherwise. And Captain Marvel specifically doesn't get that, I guess. which is a shame. Like even fucking Hope has like the,
even thinking about it now, it almost doesn't even feel
back.
like she's part of the fucking team, even though the name fucking comes from her, and it doesn't even feel like she's like part of the group. Like it's actually
and
like
maybe
not.
that'll be something explored in like the Marvels, because you have Monica and Kamala Khan who do have this closer connection to Earth that Carol doesn't, even though she came from Earth. So maybe that'll be part of arc in the movie, is right reconnecting to Earth in a way that she didn't fully do in the first Captain Marvel, right? So like there's ways that like that could be turned into an arc going forward, but I definitely hope that in the next Avengers movie she starts to have more connections with the Avengers, and instead of just because she is really like distant, and I think maybe that's another part of the reason people don't like her, because she's almost deliberately keeping away from Earth in a sense. Because and yeah, she's not wrong that there's other stuff that needs to be going on, that is going on in the universe around them, and that she has the power to do something about it. But it's still kind of a shame that she doesn't get these interactions with the other characters that would make her more have a better dynamic with them and stuff. So yeah.
And it's especially like when you think about it, like there's plenty of MCU characters who, their initial movie is not at all the best portrayal of their character, in the sense that like they get so much better over time, and sometimes in movies that they interact with like core members of the Avengers and stuff, because like a lot like whatchamacallit, fucking Thor. Like Thor has 2 movies that we don't really like that much, but just him in like Thor Ragnarok with Bruce Banner makes him so much better. Or like
or even Thor's, honestly, like I think Thor has better interactions with the Avengers than he does with his side cast in Thor 1 and 2, like just Avengers 1 and 2.
So like, and even though you and I don't know, even though like you guys don't think too highly of Captain Marvel, I guess, and you just think it's okay, you guys do think it is better than Thor's movies and the Hulk movie. So it's like it is already a better start with her movie, but she just never gets any well right now she didn't get any interactions with the Avengers, and it's disappointing, I would say. Because like I do believe in the MCU's ability to drastically make characters better and like build on them, even with any rocky beginnings they could have had. And I don't even think Captain Marvel has a rocky beginning, so I think there's more they could have done. But Endgame's still a really great movie, and obviously like it is limited how much they could have reasonably done with her, because there's so many other characters they have to focus on and do things with. But even if she doesn't have like some more character development or any like big changes or anything, she's barely in the fight. Like, even if she doesn't like do it, like
but
say anything
woman
or whatever,
moment. That makes it better. Let's not belabor that scene any more than we already have.
I mean, I don't really have a problem with it. Really, I don't fucking care. Vindy's the one who hates women.
That is true. But you know what I don't hate? Fat Thor. I love him.
Spider-Man Far From Home? Oh, okay.
No, last thing. I love Fat Thor. Okay, Spider-Man.
Yes, the epilogue to the first 3 phases, and it's really good.
Yeah. I think especially when you consider it, like, a large part of what the movie is doing is being this epilogue to Endgame, it's super good.
Well, even I was just thinking about earlier about how, like, so Avengers follows up with Iron Man 3, which is, Tony responding to the events of Avengers. Civil War follows up. I mean, it's not the movie directly after Age of Ultron, but it still has Tony following up on what happened in Age of Ultron. And so this Far From Home is even though it's not an Iron Man movie, it still has the follow-up of Tony from Endgame, with his legacy in Spider-Man and like his will being left behind. And like I hadn't thought about how after every except with the slight exception of Age of Ultron technically being followed by Ant-Man, like it's every Avengers movie is quickly followed up with like Tony's specific response to that movie in a sense, right? Because he was prepared to die, and so Peter got the glasses, and that's like the big story element with him feeling insecure about filling in Tony's shoes, and like that's like the big conflict of the movie, and it's really good.
Epic. Yeah, it's a very good movie.
We already kind of just talked about the movie too, but we can.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
The
don't
only
have
real
much to
change
say
that I
other than
remember
I like it.
based on what I talked about was fucking. I think I changed my mind. I think I still like Spider-Man 1 more. But
No, he means
it's
Raimi
very
one.
Oh,
good.
the Spider-Man 1 as in... Gotcha.
No, yeah. Yeah, it's very good. Mysterio's fucking actually the most insane man in the MCU.
He's so, like, you're commenting on his pettiness, too, right? Where he's just, like... He's mad about his tech being called Barf, and so he's going to, like, become an international terrorist.
Yeah, and he fucking... even after he dies, he's like, I'm gonna fuck over Peter, dude.
Gonna ruin
It's
his fucking life,
oh my
right?
god. Yeah, and like, and he was like saying how before he did think it was unfortunate how he had to do this very petty, messed up thing to Peter, but it's like, this dude fucking, he just doesn't care. Like, that was like, fucking, actually insane.
I mean, like, yeah, and this was just after, like, he's prepared to shoot a child in the head, like, with his own hands. Like, this dude is messed up. But,
yeah,
it's
Far From Home. It's a very good movie.
yeah, Ned's
Visuals
still
are
good.
crazy.
MJ is good. Yeah, no, the visual illusion stuff with Mysterio is really cool.
I really like how it's changing Peter's suits.
Night Monkey.
Yeah. I think this movie, in a lot of ways, pushes the, Spider-Man's whole responsibility thing, like, a lot. And I do think it, really shows how Tom Holland lives up to the character really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I gotta say, talking about all these movies again, I'm like so hyped for Phase 4 and more because we've gone through WandaVision so far, and I've seen Shang-Chi and Eternals, but like there's so much cool stuff to look forward to, Spider-Man, No Way Home, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Love and Thunder I'm a bit, and Wakanda Forever I'm a bit, not sure. I hope they're good, but there's definitely reasons I have to be worried, I feel, in some ways.
I think even if Jane comes back and is fucking dating Thor again,
I hope
and
that
is
the
shallow,
movie can make that relationship good. I just have understandable reservations given what we've seen so far. But we haven't seen the director of, because it's the same director as Thor Ragnarok. We haven't seen him handle Jane. So maybe he'll do it really well, right? So
at the very least, there's no way Thor would suck. So like, Thor could still be a Chad, even if fucking Jane is not.
Also, okay, real quick, I didn't know this because I thought Fantastic Four was going to be the end of Phase 4. But looking again, apparently there is going to be a Blade movie in Phase 4. So we don't actually know when Phase 4 is going to end now. It
could be also something where the Fantastic Four movie is the ending.
Oh, and Blade is like the Ant-Man kind of thing,
I'm very excited for a Blade movie,
because we were talking about potential like main antagonists for Phase 4, and I guess like as the Celestials, Doctor Doom, the antagonist of Quantumania, Kang the Conqueror. It's known, and they could all be major and Marvel antagonists going forward. I'm really excited to see like Shang-Chi and interact with all or just in general the interactions between all the new characters, which is also part of why I'm interested in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because Loki and Wanda are gonna come back in that one, and it's like, what the fuck is gonna happen to this movie? And No Way Home is gonna be really cool because of the crossover stuff. There's all the TV series. I don't know, I'm just looking at the list and I'm just seeing a lot of cool stuff that I'm very curious about, and it's I don't know, Phase 4 is looking cool. WandaVision is already really good. I liked Shang-Chi. Eternals was okay. I'm interested to hear what you guys think of Eternals, though I'm also slightly worried because it's not being very well liked, and I can see at very least you guys finding it boring. I have no idea. But I don't know. I just think that how there's this good stuff to come, and I'm looking forward to it.
Neat.
Hold on, I have to hold on. Polygon. Hold on. I'll explain this. I think we should do our rankings for final thoughts. I think that works a lot better. Instead of trying to give the whole MCU.
Just give our movie rankings.
So
okay.
Let's start with that.
What the fuck? Okay, should start from bottom to top.
Whichever you prefer. I'll just do the same way.
Okay.
I would do bottom to top. I think is better.
All right, Hulk. Maybe a rewatch could change that, especially after hearing Crafts talk about Dark World more and some of his issues with it. A few things I didn't consider, so maybe And I do think Hulk's like conclusion part at the end is fairly good.
You mean the conclusion of Hulk's character with
No, I just mean like fucking, you know, the Abomination fight and just like a little bit of the ending of the movie. Yeah. So Hulk, Dark World, then Thor. I think Thor's okay enough. Dark World is okay enough too, as well, because Loki's literally in the movie. Then Ant-Man and the Wasp, still a good movie. Like even though it's this low, it's still good. Like, you know, I still like it. Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Black Panther. What the fuck? I still think it's good.
It's fine, keep going.
Black Panther, Captain America, Iron Man 2. See, like, it's insane how good the MCU is, that, like, a lot, like, movies that I think are legitimately great, like Iron Man and Iron Man 2, are as kind of low as they are, even though they're, like, still really great. And, you know, I could still put Iron Man or Iron Man 2 higher than they are. Like, it's still, like, something I could contest, saying they're better than a couple other movies that are above them.
Especially because, like, those are movies you watched really into the MCU, and now having watched all of it, like, you're more invested in certain characters, so maybe, like, you'd think differently on those movies rewatching them, right? So, yeah, anyway, keep going.
Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Iron Man 3, Avengers Age of Ultron, Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, Captain
Spider-Man
America
Infinity
Civil
War, Spider-Man Endgame, no.
And Endgame.
I see.
Yeah, that's my ranking.
I'll go next. And by the way, I'm just going to say this now, just so nobody thinks this, or whoever edits this doesn't think these are not going to be on goddamn screen. Okay, maybe they'll be in the comments or in the description, but no shot anyone's putting all these fucking words on screen. Nobody should have to do that.
No.
All right. All right, here we go from the bottom up. The Incredible Hulk, Snore the Dork World, Thor, Ant-Man, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Iron Man, Captain America, Doctor Strange, Iron Man 2, Black Panther, Iron Man 3, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, Spider-Man Homecoming, Captain America the Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Thor Ragnarok, Guardians 2, Avengers Infinity War, and then Avengers Endgame.
I'm very sorry about laughing. It was not anything you said. I just fucking saw
Did you see something in Discord?
Okay,
did you see something in Discord and almost have the same thought that I did? Yeah. Okay. Don't worry about it. I'll tell you after we're done recording.
Okay. So my list is going from the bottom to the top. Thor the Dark World, Hulk, Ant-Man, Thor 1, Captain Marvel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Iron Man 3, Captain America the First Avenger, Black Panther, Iron Man 2, Doctor Strange, Age of Ultron, Iron Man, Far From Home, Thor Ragnarok, Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Civil War, Winter Soldier, Guardians 2, Infinity War, and then Endgame.
All right. Thank you guys very much for watching. We will see you next time. Adios.
Yeah, goodbye.